Excuse me, brothers and sisters, please. If someone could just turn off.
King looked out on his people and saw they were in great need. So he did what all great leaders do. He told them the truth.
Will you ignorant niggas please shut the hell up?
He just said what I think he said.
Is this it? This is what I got all those ass whoopings for? I had a dream once. It was a dream that little black boys and little black girls would drink from the river of prosperity, freed from the thirst of oppression. But lo and behold, some 4 decades later, what have I found but a bunch of trifling, shiftless, good-for-nothing niggers? And I know some of you don't want to hear me say that word. It's the ugliest word in the English language, but that's what I see now, niggers. And you don't want to be a nigger, because niggers are living contradictions. Niggers are full of unfulfilled ambitions. Niggers wax and wane. Niggers love to complain. Niggers love to hear themselves talk but hate to explain. Niggers love being another man's judge and jury. Niggers procrastinate until it's time to worry. Niggers love to be late. Niggers hate to hurry. Black entertainment television is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Usher, Michael Jackson is not a genre of music. And now I'd like to talk about soul playing. I've seen what's around the corner. I've seen what's over the horizon. And I promise you, you niggas have nothing to celebrate. And no, I won't get there with you. I'm going to Canada.
Get your life, get your life, get your life, baby. I got my why you can serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lady. Get your life, get your life, get your life, get your life, baby. I got my why you can serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lady. Get your life. Run up when you see me, no disguises. Keep that thing with me, cause I don't do surprises. J. Chanel, show and tell, all facts, no lies, streak. Get your life, cause I'm the type to come to it that mind quick. Eyes on me, what you care for? Watching me, baby, care for. If you ain't a fan, where the cameras? Hide in the back with the bellboys. My circle so restricted. Hands raised like it's your religion. When I sleep, pay close attention. Fake friends out here pretending. Get your life, get your life, get your life, baby. I got my why you can serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lady. Get your life. Get your life, get your life, get your life, baby. I got my why you can serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lady. Get your life.
Focus there.
Watch them cause they after me like a pot of gold. I'm not for play, ask Keisha if you don't know. I'm a little bit cray-cray, approach me, you better be right. If you don't come correctly, you can catch these hands tonight. Eyes on me, what you care for? Watching me, baby, care for. If you ain't a fan, where the cameras? hide in the back with the bellboys. My circle so restricted, hands raised like it's your religion. When I sleep, pay close attention. Fake friends out here pretending. Get your life, get your life, get your life, baby. I got my why you can serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lately. Get your life.
Get your life.
Get your life, get your life, get your life, baby. I got my why you can serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lately. Get your life.
Get your life, boo.
Good morning, good evening, good night, and good afternoon there, ladies and gentlemen. It's your nighttime or right time DJ Music here with another episode of the Chop Shop. Let me slide on over there down to the listening lounge. Y'all give me a 1 or a 2. Appreciate that. She on top of things already. Happy MLK Day there, ladies and gentlemen. How we doing? How we doing? You know, I've purposely been watching the YouTube streets from the 15th until this morning. Hey there, Zahara. How you doing? Hey there, Liam. Hey, Poulin. I hope I'm saying your name right there. My bad if I'm not. I'm bad on names. I will mess a name up from time to time, so you forgive me if I'm not saying your name there correctly. Appreciate you folks dropping in. Some, of course, I've seen before, and some I haven't ever seen before, like Starboy the Night. How you doing? Good. I've never met you before, but welcome on in. Welcome on in. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, is walking around the YouTube streets, seeing who would be featuring anything about the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King. Nothing. Crickets. Who's running the headlines right now? The Anton Daniels, Corey Holcomb debacle. That's why I started this video off with this. You niggas. Get mad if you want to. But was Dr. King wrong, or was this parody from the Boondocks wrong? Let me turn down this background music just a little bit more. Was it wrong? Look around us. Look what we're celebrating. Anton Daniels pulling up on Corey Holcomb. Everybody talking about it. Was he wrong about what's going on in the streets? Was he wrong about the racism? Was he wrong about BET? Was he wrong about the deference that we show our women? Was he wrong about how we will choke each other out to get next to you know who? Was he wrong? Some 40 years later, this speech was given in 1967? Y'all act like everybody from that era is dead. Like y'all act like the folks that were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old are just gone off this earth. That none of this means anything. We celebrating Puffy Combs. Remember that? How everybody covered his shit? We celebrated what? What's the latest debacle? What was that? The Passport Brothers. How they going across the pond buying pussy at a low rate. Come to find out they snatching children up left and right. That's what we're talking about. Not the economic structure of how we can do better. You hear panel after panel talking about the solution-based group. Not one fucking solution will you find over there. We got some guy in Portugal, Fatty, telling us what we should do, how we should be better. We got some guy from Africa, Dr. Frank Zanou, or whatever his name is, telling us we wrong. That we should pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. That there's no such thing as racism. Well, I guarantee you, none of you folks, if Dr. Martin King, Jr. King was still alive right now, would walk up to him and say, what you're saying is bullshit. The angry man, BGS, telling boomers that we ain't shit, that y'all ain't shit, they ain't shit. Meanwhile, he's sitting out on his patio trying to stay warm with a barbecue grill. Nobody talks about the greatness of us except for if it's in a quote, or remember what Dr. Claude Anderson said, because you heard it somewhere on YouTube, probably from a smaller channel like mine, or the Information Man, or Super Sly 75, or one of these channels that give a fuck about us. Park for a minute. Go open up another window and see what black folks is talking about right now. Anton Daniels, a loser, a failure to his own fucking community. He is the highlight of what everybody is talking about. I had a conversation with somebody behind the scenes, and this person was absolutely right, because what you folks are showing, you cannot blame white people when they call us savages. You can't say, look what they're talking about. Yeah, Corey was right. Anton was right for pulling up on that man like that. No, he wasn't. Yeah, Corey was right. No, he wasn't. Yeah, Craig was right. Look at how many folks over there. Craig Fax, really an unaccomplished comedian. Have y'all really seen Craig Fax? Have y'all listened to some of the jokes that he says? He's not very funny, to be quite honest with you. To be quite honest with you, the best thing that happened to Craig Fax was Corey Holcomb. Not saying that he don't have a career, but he ain't that funny. He's not gonna go in the annals of one of the greatest black comedians of all time. I can guarantee you that. But right now, if you click on this live stream, there's about 1,000 and some odd folks. Just a little warm up. You know, you got to give a little monologue. You got to give understanding of where you're coming from and what you're about to talk about. Because back when I was growing up, this is what we talked about. This is what our parents showed us. They didn't show us excerpts of loose niggas. They showed us the greatness of us. They showed us how to be better and why to be better. The 1960s, folks, was the closest we ever came to being a community. Notice I didn't say a culture. I said a community, because there is a difference. Black culture is everywhere. Black community is the next bus rider, who you live next to. Stop it with the black culture shit, because right now, if you look at black culture in its entirety, you call it. Can't see the forest for the trees. You can't go on TikTok without seeing ass. You can't go on Facebook without seeing the ass tooted up. You can't click on a live stream without some niggas talking about what black women ain't doing for them. And then y'all get mad when infiltrators like Lick Fuentes and Just Pearly Things coming over here and taking back the same information that you niggas is freely giving to them. See, this is what I'm saying. See, this is what I mean. This is what they do to each other. We right for saying this. Guarantee you right now, this video not gonna get many views. Know why? Because the truth is the most bitter pill to swallow in the YouTube streets. But if I had Jay Prince up here, and if I had Anton Daniels up here, if I had Tommy Sotomayor up here, if I had one of them agents of Black Chaos up here, jam-packed, it would be into the rafters of niggas want to see what went on. But since I'm about to show some clips of Dr. Martin Luther King and all his greatness, people will find this boring, outdated, out of style. Well, there's no such thing as boring class. There's no such thing as out of style class. Let's get to this first. Let me remove this. Turn this down a bit. Oh, by the way, let me let y'all for some naysayers that's gonna come over here.
You don't understand. I ain't scared of you motherfuckers.
Used to give the Negro any land. Through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they're very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. So now when we come to Washington in this campaign, we're coming to get our check.
And folks, that was the speech that many say that got Dr. Martin Luther King assassinated. Enough talking. We're coming for our checks. We need our money this time. The nonviolence is cool, but our people are living in poverty. Meanwhile, y'all giving subsidies, millions and millions and millions of dollars to folks right now. When people say, well, you know, that was so long ago. But guess what? If you got a $5, $6, $7 million head start on your neighbor, and you're able to pass that down to your children and their children's children, what is the difference? Black people don't have transferable wealth. And I was in a stream the other day when somebody was laughing at me, telling me how wrong I was for living in a place to what my parents built. Meanwhile, this nigga living in an apartment that 6 months from now, somebody else will be living in. Let it make sense. You know what the struggle my forefathers, my parents, my grandparents had to give up in order to be on this very property that one day my children might be on and their children might be on? That's what Dr. King was talking about. We coming for our check. Well, my family ain't got all their check. But damn it, we got a head start on it. But that's a laughable situation to some of y'all niggas. It's funny to some of y'all niggas. Look at what Trump did in Venezuela. Look at how much money Trump has sent abroad. Not only that he could be helping black folks, he'd be helping white folks as well. So tell me so far in this outdated version of Dr. King, as a lot of y'all would say, where he wrong at. Tell me what he said 40, 50 years ago is not applicable today, because it is. You don't believe me? Let's listen to it one more time.
Same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land. But not only...
Is he wrong? Through an act of Congress. Who runs Congress back in the 1960s? Back in them times. Who ran Congress, folks? Yet we still got to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. Meanwhile, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, they got a head start. The farmers in Idaho, the Louisiana Purchase, well, they didn't give black folks land, but they was willing to let white folks homestead. They was willing to allow white folks, Custer's last stand. Remember that, how America made Custer a hero? Come to find out, he got his ass whooped. Wasn't no last stand. He fucked around with the wrong Indians. That's what he did. Sitting Bull got tired of that shit. That's the problem with America. It don't want to tell history in the real way it is. So it's easy for people to gloss over shit like this. It's easy for people to walk away from actual truth. That's, like I said, America has to create, white America, whether you like it or not, has to create its heroes. You're looking at one of ours.
Not only did they give the land, they built land grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself.
Let me read this right here. It says, okay, option 66, option 666, 1666. Welcome to the broadcast here. Let me read your comment here, sir. Okay, it says, blacks work together with whites to war with us as Native Americans and take our lands, goods, wealth, and power. In some cases, sir, you're absolutely right. That is history. But you got to pick up on the other side of history. That's why they don't talk about the Buffalo Soldiers. No, what you're saying is not wrong. But when you come with a slight, make sure you come with the other half of that slight to tell the positive side. Because a lot of us have you in us. We were here long before people think we were. Remember, before the Europeans came here, we coexisted. There was no black and Indian wars. There was no reservations. There was only trading. There was only peace amongst us when we came across them shores. We took y'all ideas. Y'all took our ideas. It wasn't savage until who came here, sir? Option. And you got to look when you want to bring things up. Well, there's some of us that still do. I don't have anything against my Native American people. It seems that you guys, as it seems here, and I'll speak directly to you, it's just with some folks, some people carry grudges too long. And you need somebody to punch down on. Anything that we as black folks did to the Native Americans back then is paled in comparison to what those folks did to you. So why all the anarchy and pointed at us? Misplaced frustration, sir. That's what I call it. Option. Misplaced frustration. We didn't put you on reservations. And here we go. Somebody else in here. Wayne Schultz, explain your fatigue message, sir. What do you mean by that? Please don't come in here with the black fatigue. Please, because I'll show you how you folks even hijack too, if you need me to. Just like y'all hijack woke. Don't come in here with that. Please just don't put fatigue and put black in front of it. Because that's what the real fatigue is. We as black folks tired of you folks coming in here with shit like that. Yeah, I know. I know. You'll come in here with one word, try to distract. That's what you folks do. No problem. No problem. But the thing about it is, I'm well equipped to understand what you're saying. Well, anyway, we're going, as I said, sooner or later, the haters will show up. You know why you guys showed up today? Because I'm talking about Dr. Martin Luther King. That's why you guys showed up. There's no hate group that you folks can find on the internet. There's plenty of them. Y'all could have a good old time today. Don't y'all got some Obama jokes y'all need to talk about? Don't y'all got some John Wayne quotes that y'all need to recite? Don't you got to go and get fitted for your sheet? Why are you over here? Why are you over here trying to convince me that what you're saying is right? We coming to get our check is why I stopped in. And what made you stop in because I said we coming to get our check? Explain, Wayne. What made you drop in because of that? Explain, sir. What made you drop in for that? We coming to get our check. But let's go back. Let's go ahead and take this off the screen before I get too distracted here. Let's go here. It's a ridiculous thought. Why so? Why so, sir? Why is it a ridiculous thought? No, you don't hear. There's no victimhood here, sir. This is truth and reality. It's you coming in here with your distractions, hoping that I'm going to say, well, I didn't get my check on the 15th. No, sir. This is much bigger than a government subsidy. Jesse Lee Peterson, is that who you really referring to? The guy that says that started White History Month? You better come better than that. Are you kidding me? Are you coming into a grown man stream trying to convince me that Jesse Lee Peterson is somebody that I should be paying attention to? I have destroyed his idiotic talking points on several occasions. Matter of fact, I destroyed them in the 9th grade. Wrong guy. Wrong guy there, Wayne. I'm not him. I'm not Jesse Lee Peterson. I'm not what's his name? I'm not Jason Whitlock. Because see, I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting paid millions and millions of dollars to recite white racist talking points. You know why I don't have to get paid? Because I've lived this. I am Black America, sir. I am the face of Black America. You see me everywhere. You see guys like me everywhere, unassuming. That someone like you will walk up to and try and correct until I correct you. It's not up for you. It's not up for you to decide what I'm doing. My question was, why are you here? Other than because you saw a title of a stream. That same title's in YouTube. You could have typed that in and found that out for yourself. So actually, you're here to see what I'm talking about. You're here to see why I'm talking about we coming to get our check. Let's go ahead and straighten that out. But anyway,
Dean Napier, Mr. Bell, members of the faculty and members of the student body of this great institution of learning.
okay, it seems that I'm going to have to stop frequently to address some things that you guys say here. Okay, option. Let's try this one. Let's see how we can go with this. Again, folks, never been to college, not a scholar, and I don't mind being wrong. If what I'm saying at any time you guys have a disagreement about hey, I'm willing to say, hey, I was wrong about that. But so far, let me just go ahead and say this. Read this options. The Africans have been stealing all of you, all so-called reparations checks, sending money back to Africa, building up Nigeria, South Africa, Somalia has done it so far. Well, you know, the last time I heard about the Somalians here in the United States stealing a bunch of money, they stole a bunch of money. But have you been to the country of Somalia? Have you been there lately? Have you gone or taken a satellite photo of the country of Somalia in the last 30, 40, 50, 60 days? What do you think they did with that 10 billion, $9 billion? They damn sure didn't take it over there. Now let's address the other part of there has not been any folks that has not immigrated to this country that come over here and get a job and don't send money back to where they came from. That's why they come here. I didn't say you were African. That's why they come here, though. They come here for a better way of life, whether they're from Poland, whether they're from Ireland, whether they're from Greenland, wherever the fuck they come from, sir. They all come here with one purpose from the United States. That's what that big, that Statue of Liberty said, give us your poor, your tired, your wretched. They took that to heart. A lot of them came over here to make a living, possibly bring their families here, or possibly send their money back to that country. So it's just not the Africans. It's just not the Somalians. It's everybody. Wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't you agree? Option. What's up there, Black Hawk? No, well, let me go ahead and say this. Wayne, because you two folks seem to have my direct attention. No, I don't feel entitled. And explain entitled. Now, do I feel entitled as a man to go after the American dream like everybody else? Yes, I'm entitled to that according to the Constitution. I am entitled to that. Are you? Are you entitled to? I think so. So we're both. Don't we both have a realm of entitlement about us? You entitled to come up here and say what you want. I'm entitled to come up and say what I want. Right? Whether we agree or disagree. Well, and let me go ahead and speak on Africa again, since Wayne, you seem to be want to go over to that continent. You know, actually, and I'll say this with all due respect to you, that one of the reasons why some folks said that Gaddafi was summarily taken out was because he tried to put all the African countries together and come under one economic system. You know what that would have done to the American economy if Africa would have done that? You know what would have happened? Matter of fact, to the world economy, because the United States money is not backed on anything, no natural resources, no oil, because we got oil everywhere, no gold. There's no gold in Fort Knox, sir. I know you want to believe that we sit on a stockpile of gold at Fort Knox, but no, sir, that's been gone. Everybody who used to store their gold here came back and got it. So again, if the African countries do decided, with all those countries over there, I think it's about 54, 55 of them, if they decided to band together with all their natural resources, we'd be in a shit fit, wouldn't we? Don't you think? Let me read this one. No, during COVID, they all have taken money back. Well, I don't know, but again, I'll have to look into that, folks. But this one option. But I'll tell you one thing for sure. If the Africans did send money back, so did everybody else. That's my point. It's not just the Africans that was coming to this country, whether it was during the time of COVID or before. I used to live in Georgia next to a check cashing window. I used to see all nationality of folks going up into their currency exchange, sending money back to their folks. So don't tell me it's just African people. Don't tell me it's just Latino people that does it. It's everybody. You can look at the signs outside the check cashing window. And it has all the different countries to where you can send money back to for a certain fee. That's still going on today, man. Let me go ahead and address this. People lived in Africa for hundreds and thousands of years. What I'm talking to them, what? I'm not even going to answer that. What's this country? Again, I think I will. Okay, this country has been this country has been together for how long now? When you gonna get your shit together? When you gonna get your shit together? You thought I was suggesting reparations? What's wrong with reparations? I think. Let me go ahead and say this. Let me go ahead and say this, Wayne. I don't think America will ever give, whether you want to call yourself ADOS or FBA, as a collective, we still are black folks. I don't think America will ever come to grips with giving black folks reparations. Why? Because you have to repair first. That's the core essence of reparations. And in order to repair something, you have to come to grips with what you broke and come down with a solution of how to fix it. So America's not willing to come to its own identity about what it did to cause this so-called thing called reparations, meaning slavery, meaning Jim Crow, meaning redlining, meaning all these different things that you cannot deny that was put in place to slow the progress of black and brown folks, Chinese folks. You can't deny these things. You can't say that just because something was passed in the 1960s, it's still not effective today, because it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, now there are several things that one could talk about before such a large, concerned, and enlightened audience. There are so many problems facing our nation and our world that one could just take off anywhere. But today I would like to talk mainly about the race problem, since I'll have to rush right out and go to New York to talk about Vietnam tomorrow, and I've been talking about it a great deal this week and weeks before that. But I'd like to use as a subject from which to speak this afternoon the other America. And I use this subject because there are literally two Americas. One America is beautiful for situation.
I just waited for that so he could say that. What's your name? Options. There is two Americas, and that's the whole point of this video. There is two Americas. Is America the beautiful that at some point in time, some of us it has experienced, but then there's that ugly side of America that folks like you, or folks that think like you, because I don't know you personally, won't acknowledge. It's not all peaches and cream, sir. So when you say that, when you ask this question, do I think America has their shit together? No, they don't. And it's obvious right now. You got folks running around with masks on, picking people up out of the street. It's obvious when the headlines of our black YouTube is Anton Daniels versus Corey Holcomb. I'm not just talking about black folks. I'm talking in general, sir. See, you guys are coming up here trying to cherry pick, talking about race. I didn't mention race once. So no, America don't have this shit together. When you literally can go to, as a president of the United States, shoot the bird at somebody for their opinion. When you literally can get on TV and watch someone get shot, and the outcry is not for the victim, but for the person that did it. When you literally can have a president convicted of with 34 felonies, that's not a guess. That's an actual fact. Sitting up in the White House right now, creating havoc, raiding other countries for their resources. under the pretense of making America great again. Taking out one leader and not removing the entire, as they call it, regime. Let that make sense. A man that's so desperate that he will take somebody else's Nobel Peace Prize. But America has their shit together. Come on, man. Would you do that? If I won the Nobel Peace Prize and you decided you wanted it, and I said, I'm going to give it to you, but you feel that you earned it? So no, America don't have their shit together, man. Now let's go ahead with this one. The point is you all received representations or a check through Africans who claim to be your ancestors. There's no claim to that, folks. We're all ancestors of the continent of Africa. I don't care what color you are. And there's not been one African that sent me a check yet. So I don't know what you're talking about. There's not been one African that's came over here and changed any laws that I know of that's uplifted my way of living here in this country. So some of your comments don't make sense, man. Again, you keep going back to this Africa, and I don't know why, but come on back to this continent for a little bit, bro. I'm trying to catch up with all these comments, so y'all just hold on just a second. Let me go ahead and let some more of this play here.
And in a sense, this America is overflowing with the milk of prosperity and the honey of opportunity. This America is the habitat of millions of people who have food and material necessities for their bodies, and culture and education for their minds, and freedom and human dignity for their spirits. In this America, millions of people experience every day the opportunity of having life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in all of their dimensions. And in this America...
And that's basically all we're saying is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But I remember as a time, because I'm at an age group that I remember there was a time that we could not go downtown after a certain hour. There were certain roads that we could not do. If you grew up in the Charleston, North Charleston, Goose Creek, Somerville, Berkeley County area, you knew there was some stores that you could not go to in the front door. That was not life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness. We literally had to create this thing called the Green Book so we could travel without being accosted. This is in this country. We're not talking about Africa, sir. Let's talk about what's going on here. You're not talking about somebody who's guessing. We're talking about somebody who's seen the books that said for colored schools only. You're talking to somebody who's gone to one of the oldest churches that in South Carolina. You're talking to someone who lived in a place where a man took a boat from some folks, sailed it through the intercoastal waterway as a black man, learning their signals. Now he's just an honorable mention somewhere on a school in Beaufort County. You know, to this one right here. Hey, OMG, it's you. We will receive everything we are supposed to receive according to our works, and people are going to talk trash. Just keep your hands to yourself. You're absolutely right. You're going to get what's coming to you, whether it's good or bad. I agree with that. Karma is a real thing. If you got good karma, it's going to get you. It's going to come to you. You're going to your deeds will be rewarded. But the works of any man or woman does not come from their pockets, folks. That's for sure. Now let me go ahead, and there is more than one America. Actually, there are many holographic simulation realms created through Freemasonry, to keep the sleep and the blind. So you didn't see Africa robbing. Well, again, I've seen every country come over here and take advantage of the so-called resources of the United States. So again, is Africa guilty of that? In some cases, are we talking about South Africa? You could talk about Elon Musk and what he did. Is that who you're referring to? Like I said, I'm not college educated, but I'm well informed, sir. Do you want to talk about Elon Musk and what he did? When he came over to this shit called Doge, and how he wreaked havoc on your folks too. You want to talk about that South African? That his ancestors left their country because they didn't want to be they wanted the country to remain under apartheid rule. And since it wasn't, they got the hell on. They went to a place that was more empathetic and sympathetic to their cause. Like I said, I'm not a college educated man, but I'm well informed. Do you want to talk about Elon Musk? Okay, I'm going to get to it. Okay, it's not that we expect to check. See, again, I don't know. I'm gonna say. I guess it's a metaphorically speaking kind of thing. When we say when Dr. King says we come in to get our check, we don't mean a literal check for some handouts. What we're talking about, being able to go into a bank and getting a loan based on what we have, or being able to go into a voting booth, or being able to go into certain places without. That's the check we're talking about, sir. The American dream. That's the check, not a literal check with some numbers on it. That is the check. The American dream that you folks were allowed to have a head start on. That's the check that I'm talking about, and that's the check that Dr. Martin Luther King is talking about, sir. Well, just because, okay, in some cases, where are your ancestors from? Their option. Where do you think your ancestors came from? And everything, in everything, there's a start point, and one day there's going to be an ending point. For us, with these vessels that we call the human body, it's going to come to an end one day. But this vessel that we call the human, where do you think it started at? It had to have a specific starting point. And according to the powers that be, it was in Africa. So you're talking about your ancestors too. Yikes. Yikes. He says, okay, Wayne, we're going to get to this. I remember a time I couldn't go to Detroit after a certain time. I remember a time that I couldn't go to down the street after a certain time. It's called, when y'all see the little red light on outside from the radio tower, get your ass in the house. You're talking about a specific city. I'm talking about an entire country. That you could not be outside after dark, period. Try again. Go and type something else. Okay, option. What do you mean I'm not to be mixed? Mixed with what? We're all mixed. Some of us more mixed than others. And maybe you haven't seen TV lately, but this country is slowly but surely. I know this is going to be a painful thing to hear. But this country itself is slowly but surely becoming a lighter shade of brown, especially if you're into sports like I am. growing up heavily into baseball. Remember the darker complexion men that were on the baseball diamonds, or football, Gale Sayers and all them guys. Remember Brian's song? A little bit before my time, but I do remember the movie. Walter Payton, let's see, Barry Sanders, Emmett Smith. Remember how Hank Aaron, Satchel Paige, and all those folks were a darker complexion. Remember that? Now we got folks like, what's his name for the Kansas City Chiefs? Look at the last two quarterbacks that just played in this weekend. All lighter shade of brown. Can't change it, bro. You're just going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to deal with the fact that one day that white men will not be the dominant force in this country. That's the problem. Y'all not ready to face reality. When it comes to religion, in less than 30 years, the predominant religion that will be celebrated in this country will be Muslim. Here we go. I'm gonna get to it. I really came here to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, but I'm glad you folks are engaging here. So let me continue to engage. I remember I couldn't go to school safely because there was a dozen white kids there. That's right, Wayne. We ain't got to go too far back to see what George Wallace put out in front. We ain't got to go back. Some of those very same pictures of those people that you see are now prominent people in government that did not want to integrate the schools. They're still around. Ask Lindsey Graham where he was at as a teenager. Ask Jerry Jones where was he at as a teenager. Come on. Like I said, I ain't been to college, but I know a little something. It's called history. Either you live it or you learn it. It's not going to come to you. Here goes another one. Okay, Black Vega, let me go ahead and respond to this. I suppose my ancestors enslaved people of other races constantly targets them for hundreds of years later. I would definitely be ashamed. Hopefully, I would learn from history's horrors. Well, how do I respond to that? By saying this, I don't think there's been any civilization that hasn't enslaved someone. It's usually do cause the spoils of war. From the Romans, the Greeks, the Cretes, every civilization that's conquered another civilization, right, wrong, and indifferent, spoils of war, usually the women, sometimes the children, and sometimes the men will get sold off. Would you conquer your enemy and then allow the men that you conquered to live amongst you? Not right, wrong, or indifferent. Remember I said that. But there's a difference between the slavery that you guys are trying to equate to the chattel slavery that was here. That the antebellum slavery, the angry man said that was a little bit easier. There's a big difference in the slavery that you guys try to compare. Want to try again? Yep. Elon Musk is South African. So is that the African you was talking about? Okay, Wayne. I don't know why it makes a difference to 72% or 80% or whatever those black kids that you chose to be around. Yeah, those were your parents decided for you to grow up at. I can't help that. I grew up where my parents decided I was going to grow up at. 88% of the people that was around me was white. So what's your point? I'm still here. You still here. So whatever horrors that you saw or whatever horrors I saw, I survived. But guess what? My friend Carl Williams didn't. He didn't survive the horrors of being outside after dark. He didn't get to survive this. He didn't get to see his friend talk like this to folks at one point in time would have locked them up, or worse, for speaking his mind. He didn't get to see this simply for being outside at the wrong time. Let's see here. To ashame the past and take accountability in the future is diabolical. I'm not sure I understand that, but yeah, he did have a dream. Yeah, he did. But Kevin, I think we fucked it up, don't you? Let's see. Segregation is the will of the creator. Here we go with this. Here we go with this. These biblical things. Let me ask you something, Option. Right now, I want you to type in the chat room. What won't you find in the Bible? Tell me the one thing that both you and I know that you won't find in the Bible. What's one thing you won't find in the Bible? Options. Hey, Mella, how you doing? Welcome. I'm talking about the 1980s too, sir. But Option, I'll wait for you. What you got for me? What's one thing you won't find in the Bible? No, white folks. So miss me with that religion stuff, okay? At no point in time did they make a reference to Caucasian or white people in the Bible. There's not a passage, a psalm, or anything in the Bible that mentions you folks. But that's what you came up with. You came up here talking about this religious thing, this segregation. Wait a minute, am I crazy? Is this what you just said a little while ago? Am I crazy? Segregation is the will of the creator. Well, who is the creator, sir? But now you're trying to tell me that you only, what you won't find in the Bible is the truth. I didn't ask you what was in the Bible. I asked you what wasn't in the Bible. See, that's that comprehension level some of y'all don't want to atone to sometimes, because be careful of how you answer. I might already know the answer. I might already know the answer, and I just gave it to you. That's the one thing you will not find in the Bible. Caucasian people. Sir? Now let's get back to this. Did I cover everything? Let's go back to some more.
Millions of young people grow up in the sunlight of opportunity. But tragically and unfortunately, there is another America. And this other America has a daily ugliness about it that constantly transforms the buoyancy of hope into the fatigue of despair. In this America, millions of work-starved men walk the streets daily in search for jobs that do not exist. In this America, millions of people find themselves living in rat-infested, vermin-filled slums. In this America, people are poor by the millions, and they find themselves perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. In a sense, the greatest tragedy of this other America is what it does to little children. Little children in this other America are forced to grow up with clouds of inferiority forming every day in their little mental skies. And as we look at this other America, we see it as an arena of blasted hopes and shattered dreams. Many people of various backgrounds live in this other America. Some are Mexican Americans, some are Puerto Ricans, some are Indians, some happen to be from other groups. Millions of them are Appalachian whites. Probably the largest.
Now, millions of them, I wanted to get to that part. Millions of them are what? Appalachian white. So Dr. King is not talking about just black people and that live in this other America. He's talking about Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, folks from Appalachia, because if you go through some of these towns, you would really think that you were in third world countries. If you go to some of these, as you guys want to say, ghettos, are they not rat infested? Now, let me go back and address some of these comments. Let's see. Well, Wayne, let me go ahead and say this, my man. You said the Bible is recycled stories of older stories. Well, I can't say I agree or disagree with you on that because, again, it is. I would take out the word recycled, but I would say stories that's retold. And in some cases, it was told wrong. I think the Bible was used for a lot of nefarious reasons. I don't think that's what the creator, as you said, decided to that it was for. Okay, let's see this one. What mumbo jumbo are you referring to, sir? Am I speaking mumbo jumbo, or is Dr. Martin Luther King speaking mumbo jumbo? Are you referring to the fact that there's no such thing as Caucasian in the Bible? Because first and foremost, sir, the word Caucasian didn't come around to who? I think that dude named Leonidas or whatever his name is, and those folks who decided what phenotype was better from the Caucasus Mountains. I don't think that was around. I don't think that was around when Jesus was wearing sandals. Do you? So I don't think you're going to find Caucasian in the Bible either. I said everything is in the Bible. Look it up. No, not everything. Okay. There is no convincing evidence that any gods or supernaturals. Well, no, there's no compelling evidence. But just because you can't see it, that don't mean it's not true. Can you see the wind unless there's a dust storm? Do you see when a flower petal opens up, not unless you're in front of it? How do you explain all these different creations? How do you explain water, air, dogs, cats, rats, you? How do you explain these things? If there's not a higher power, who created it? Aliens? In that case, aliens would be the higher power then, right? Am I right? So some things do not need not convincing. Just all I got to do is walk outside. That's convincing enough for me that there's something greater than me. What about you? Well, option, where do you think the Greeks got their history from? Who do you think the history, the actual Greeks? It's our history. It's African history. That's what the Greeks have. That's what you guys were learning. Oops. Meaning in my option, most of the prejudice and racism we as Black people still deal with boils down to racist whites not acknowledging their past mistakes, so they continue spreading hatred. Well, Black Vega, in this case, I would absolutely agree with you. Some people don't want to come to terms and grips and realities for what they are, even though we plainly see it in front of us. I know everybody took that movie, what's it called, the Django, as Jamie Foxx being a badass, but there's historical context in that. I know some people will look at the movie Mississippi Burning and only see it as a Hollywood script that was written, but there's actual historical content in that. Three young men did lose their life. That really started the ball really rolling of what the fuck is going on down there in Mississippi. But before that, how many black folks lost their life? It took the killing of two white men. I can even relate it to today. We saw one lady get shot by and unalived by ICE agents. It's all over the news. But Mr. Porter Jr., nothing. 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 All right then, Wayne. It's always a pleasure talking to you, whether the opinion is opposing or to the side. Thank you very much for stopping through. Okay, Wayne, I think you're still here. Maybe not, but what is culture, sir? Every and as a matter of fact, what is race? Let's start there. There's only one race, and that's human. Now, because someone decided to divide us up, look at this right here. Crazy cheetah come in here. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. Did you have a bunch of girlfriends, some of them underage? What the fuck? That's all you can do. And when people come in with shit like that, you had nothing else better to type. You couldn't think of nothing more clever to say than some dumb shit like that. Crazy cheetah. No wonder you call yourself crazy. That's a crazy guy. He's a wild and crazy guy. They come in here with some shit like that. Thought that was going to affect me. As a quote from the great, what's his name? Little John. Bye, nigga. Well, religion, it probably is mumbo jumbo. Religion, just like with what do you call it? Race was created by who, sir? Hey there, ABT. How you doing? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Claims without evidence. What claims am I making, sir? Everything that I've said in this live stream so far, you can probably go back and look up for yourself. You seem to be somewhat of an educated man. You know these are not claims, sir. You know I'm speaking actual and factual. Yes, sir, because I am the legacy of Martin Luther King there, Black Vega. I am. I never said it was. I said what you won't find in the Bible. Sir, I didn't say anything about it. What I said, what you won't find in the Bible is white folks. And of course, you're not going to find race in the Bible because there was no such thing as race back then, sir. You're contradicting yourself. You're trying to outsmart me. I'm not double talking. I'm speaking facts. Go check for yourself. And as a matter of fact, let me go ahead and dump this on you while you Googling shit. Go tell me when the letter J was put into the alphabet. I think it was like the 16th century. So before the letter J came into existence, what was the creator called, sir? I said, I'm not a college educated man, but I ain't stupid. What was he called before the letter J was invented? Huh? Yes, Africans are white people too. We agree. No, some things are unexplainable. You're right. But, I guess we'll all find out one day. the reason why things are the way they are. But I don't think we'll find out on this side. If you believe that the human body is full of kinetic energy, and you one thing you know about energy, it never dies, it just takes another form. Hmm. So no, who am I to question why them trees is out there? Who am I to question why the wind blows? Who am I to question what creates a tornado or a hurricane or tidal wave or those things? I don't know. Okay, 350,000 white Americans died during the Civil War. Well, you know those claims. I don't know why you put that. So I'm guessing you mean some point in time in American history. So I'm just going to pick that. I'm just going to think that you're talking about the Civil War. What was the Civil War? Did all those white men die? Brother against brother, cousin against cousin, uncle against uncle. Why? Why was the Civil War really? It's about people. Other people keeping other people in bondage. That's what the Civil War was about. It wasn't about states' rights. It was about being able to keep people in bondage. The 3/5 compromise. That's why what really got slavery hot. White folks wanted to use their slaves as people when it benefited them. But they wanted to use them as domestic cattle, goats, sheep, plowbearers, cotton pickers, tobacco croppers, corn shuckers, until it came to getting political power. Whites up north wasn't having that. Hence the Civil War, sir. No, it's not. Of course, it's not about me. It's about me. Of course, and I haven't made it about me yet. Well, that's the thing about it, Wayne. He gave us free will. Whatever this thing is that we call God or whatever, he gave you free will to make that decision, whether you believe or not. Gave you free will just for that purpose. Well, we know all about the secret societies. We know about all the Rothschilds. We know about the Masons, the Freemasons. We know all about that, but it's not about this. Okay, World War II. Okay, how many black men died during the World War II? Since you want to quote World War II stats. What's up there, information man? Great live stream, the last one. I forgot to share it, but I was in the clouds listening to you. If you don't mind, information man, drop your link down in there so folks can come check you out. Whether you agree or disagree with my man right there, folks, he's always on point. He's not there to please you. He's out there to teach. As I call him, one of the good soldiers on the streets. Go look for yourself. Like, share, and subscribe if you don't mind. I won't send you to someplace that's full of bullshit, folks. Believe me. Now, going back to this right here. Where was I at? I forgot. Oh, World War II. Yeah, there we go. Let me get that back on the screen. So how many black men gave up their life in World War II? Since you quoting stats, do you know? Do you know? I guarantee you, for every white man that died in World War II on any wars, black men died. You don't own 800? Really? Only 800 black men died in World War II. 800. Did y'all hear that? You shouldn't have even typed that. Y'all see that right there? This man said 350,000 white men died during World War II, but only 800. Wait a minute. Let me see. Let me see. Hey, Google. And one time I'm going to use Google. Hey, Google. How many black soldiers died during World War II?
Approximately 708 to 780 African American combat during World War II. While over 1.2 million Black Americans served in the military during the war, their combat death rate was significantly lower than the average because the U.S. military was segregated and largely restricted Black troops to non-combat support roles, such as supplying.
Now you know why, sir. Even in death, even in the defense of this country, in a country that did not want us to be there, we still found a way to put almost, like you said, 800 folks. I don't mind being wrong, but everything has a reason. You got to break it down to the smallest reason of why that number. Because we couldn't. It's not that we didn't want to. Go watch this movie called The Soldier Story. Like I said, sir, I'm not college educated, but I ain't stupid either. So when you come at me, make sure you have all your facts, not just the ones that boast your argument. That's why so few Blacks died during World War II, because we weren't allowed to. As a Marine, I was not allowed to join that elite organization back then. Go look up when Black Marines were able to, and guess where we got trained at? Still segregated then. It certainly was there, folks. If you've never seen A Soldier Story, you got to go watch it. There's again, there's some great Black stars in it, a host of them. So if you have not seen A Soldier Story, I would suggest you go watch it. Again, there, Wayne, I said, I'm always willing to say when I'm wrong about something. You were right about the number, but you're being right, you didn't give reason why you were right. You understand what I'm saying? You didn't give the reason why you were right. You wanted to skip completely over why there were so few Black men killed in World War II. But if we go to Vietnam, it's a whole different story, isn't it? If we go back to the Revolutionary War, it's probably a whole lot less. So kudos for your correct answer, but give context to why your answer was correct, sir. Shall we continue?
Group in this other America, in proportion to its size in the population, is the American Negro. The American Negro finds himself living in a triple ghetto, a ghetto of race, a ghetto of poverty, a ghetto is to deal with this problem, of the two Americas. We are seeking to make America one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now let me say that the struggle for civil rights, or the struggle to make these two Americas one America, is much more difficult today than it was 5 or 10 years ago.
But wouldn't that be cheating the conversation, sir, if you didn't need to give a reason? Wouldn't that be cheating the conversation? Yes, it's easy research. And like I said, Wayne, I don't mind being wrong, sir. I don't mind someone telling me something that I don't know. I really don't. I'm not someone that minds learning. It wasn't a gotcha moment. It was a thank you. Thank you for pointing that out to me, sir. Context means everything. We're not talking about the families of those dead folks. Context means everything here, sir. Context means everything. Don't you think?
For about a decade or maybe 12 years, we struggled all across the South in glorious struggles to get rid of legal, overt segregation and all of the humiliation that surrounds.
Legal, overt segregation is what he just said. Can anyone argue that didn't go on? Hey there, Plant Place Black Man, welcome in. So are you wanted to? I hope I'm reading this right. You want to argue that legal segregation did not go on? It's easy to find. Just like my man just said, since y'all want to talk about easy to find shit, legal segregation didn't go on option. Is that what you're saying?
Founded that
I'll wait for your
system
answer.
of segregation. In a sense, this was a struggle for decency. We could not go to a lunch counter in so many instances and get a hamburger or a cup of coffee. We could not make use of public accommodations. Public transportation was segregated, and often we had to sit in the back, and within transportation within cities, we often had.
Well, sir. Well, so far, isn't the mere fact of Rosa Parks sitting and instead of saying giving up her seat, she decided to say nope. Isn't that what Martin Luther King is just saying? Legal. She went to jail for that, remember? A lot of folks say that was the spark of the civil rights movement. There wasn't segregated lunch counters. Ask the Greensboro boys that. That was really the first sit-in. How about those folks that tried to march over the Edmund Pettus Bridge and was met with dogs? So much so, they didn't want to give up on it, so they did it again. I guess you don't know who Bull Connor was. Oh my goodness! I'm gonna let that fester for a minute. Yeah, I'm gonna let that fester for a minute. Hey, baby Bubba, I appreciate you telling me that your ethnicity, your ethnic background is Native American. Thank you. Huh? Her husband had a car. It was not even for her story. Huh? Oh, you saying Rosa Parks' husband had a car, so that was just a photo op? Or what about the lady that was arrested before that? Was that a photo op too? Because the only reason, now I'm gonna give you a point on this one, okay? Was it an opportunity? Yes. Why was it an opportunity? Because colorism was big back then. The first lady that actually got arrested, his name escapes me right now, but y'all go check it out. She was a dark-skinned woman. She wasn't working for anyone of any importance. Rosa Parks, on the other hand, was a bright-skinned woman, and she was working for someone of some importance. So they'll go to two. Okay. Now, here we go, Wayne, again. Just pointing out that all of white America has sacrificed for their country. So you're going into the realm of patriotism, right? Okay. Which war has blacks not fought in? Which war? Who was the first person killed in the Civil War? Which war? Even in the ones that we weren't heavily represented in. Which war? Which part of patriotism? After telling this, matter of fact, let me just go ahead and say this, because the Vietnam resonates more with me with any other war than any other, because those was the wars that my uncles and my grandfathers and folks before me was dealing with. Okay? To go to serve in Vietnam, now I'm speaking on one man in particular, to get 3 Bronze Stars, to get 3 Silver Stars, 2 Purple Hearts. Is that not sacrifice enough for you, Wayne? You know who I'm talking about? I'm talking about my father, my dad. Is that not sacrificing? Because when he came back from Vietnam, he wasn't treated as a war hero. He wasn't afforded the same glory the white men were afforded. He still came back to a land that only saw him as a black man, as at that point in time as a Negro. But yet some 30, 40 years later, there's people that with the advent of Facebook and MySpace and TikTok that's reaching out and saying, if it not been for your daddy, your father, our bloodline would have ended, because that's what those bronze stars and those silver stars represent. Bravery. You put yourself on the line to save somebody else. So miss me with that again, sir. Wayne, you seem to be the focus of my conversation today, so I appreciate the friendly banter back and forth. It's educational to know history. Dwelling in it is not sure if it benefits. Well, those who don't know history, sir, is doomed to repeat it. Enough said on that. Hey, Candy Cane, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome in. Welcome in. Let me see. Let me see. Someone says I got to have a wrench. Let me see if I can do that right quick, like the information man. Because hold on, let's play this.
Stand over empty seats because sections were reserved for whites only. We did not have the right to vote in so many areas of the South. And the struggle was to deal with these problems. Now, certainly they were difficult problems. They were humiliating conditions. And by the thousands, we protested these conditions. We made it clear that it was ultimately more honorable to accept jail cell experiences than to accept segregation and humiliation. By the thousands, students and adults decided to sit in at segregated lunch counters to protest conditions there. And when they were sitting at those lunch counters, they were in reality standing up for the best in the American dream and seeking to take the whole nation back to those great wells of democracy which were dug deep by the founding fathers in the formulation of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Many things were gained as a result of these years of struggle.
Okay, there, Wayne. What good is it to know history if you don't tell it? History is not a well-kept secret, sir. No, it is not. History is not a well-kept secret. Actually, I'm on StreamYard, so I can't change your status here, information man. But I'll make sure I will later on. Sure, if you don't mind, if you don't mind going over and grabbing information man's chat and his stream and drop it in the link there for me, because I really would like folks to go over and check out his information. So dwelling is a difference in knowing. So I'm not dwelling it, and I'm pointing it out. Again, I'll keep going back to this this euphemism. Those who don't know history is bound to repeat it. Let's see who we got here now. Milani, welcome. Thank you. Who else I got in here? L Bookie, welcome. Thank you. Good to see you. Mela, how you doing? Who else we got in here? Bridget M, how you doing? Good to see you. Thank you so very much for dropping through. Let's continue. Oh.
In 1964, the Civil Rights Bill came into being after the Birmingham movement, which did a great deal to subpoena the conscience of a large segment of the nation to appear before the judgment seat of morality on the whole question of civil rights. After the Selma movement in 1965, we were able to get a voting rights bill. Now, all of these things represented...
Okay, this guy says, okay, option. So you came back to life, huh? Okay, Martin Luther King was symbolic. Kings ruled over the dead. They sent Martin King as a messenger. What? Let me make sure I'm reading this right. Martin Luther King was symbolic. Kings ruled over the dead. They sent Martin Luther King as a message. I guess you meant as a messenger. What was symbolic about his death? To go tell his children that Martin Luther King Jr. was symbolic. Go tell his family members that Martin Luther King was symbolic. See, the thing about it is, like I said, their option, you folks have to create your heroes. You try to desecrate ours. That's the difference, sir. John Wayne, y'all had to create. That's your hero. And the ones that you didn't create, that you celebrate, the John Dillingers, the Bugsy Siegels, the John Gottis. Come on, man.
Strides. But we must see that the struggle today is much more difficult. It's more difficult today because we are struggling now for genuine equality. And it's much easier to integrate a lunch counter than it is to guarantee a livable income and a good, solid job. It's much easier.
Well, I salute you there, sir. You didn't get that on accident, did you? Yeah, again, you never know who you're going to attract. There's a bona fide hero down in there because for him to have that Bronze Star, guess what that means? He sacrificed himself in the service of someone else. So my salute to you.
To guarantee the right to vote than it is to guarantee the right to live in sanitary, decent housing conditions. It is much easier to integrate a public park than it is to make genuine quality integrated education a reality. And so today we are struggling for something which says we demand genuine equality. It's not.
Well, there, Wayne, I knew you, somehow I knew you was going to respond to that. It's in the movies. How many movies is made about John Dillinger? How many movies have y'all made about Jesse James? How many movies have y'all made about Billy the Kid? How many movies have y'all made about Custer? It's in your DNA. Those are your heroes. Don't get mad at me because you put it up front and somebody figured it out. Them's their heroes. John Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde. That's who y'all celebrate. Come on, man. No, the First Amendment is not frowned on here. No, you're free to speak your mind, sir. That's what the First Amendment is all about. Listen, I'm almost tempted to. I'm almost tempted to drop that link for you there, Wayne. I almost am, but something tells me if I drop that link, it will go haywire. It will go crazy. But I'm almost tempted to drop it for you, sir. And let me go ahead and continue.
Not merely a struggle against extremist behavior toward Negroes. And I'm convinced that many of the very people who supported us in the struggle in the South are not willing to go all the way now. I came to see this in a very difficult and painful way in Chicago over the last year where I've lived.
Wait a minute now, Option. You say you Asians don't have heroes? Who the hell is Bruce Lee? Who's Jet Li? Stop it. Stop it, man.
Work. Some of the people who came quickly to march with us in Selma and Birmingham were active around Chicago. And I came to see that so many people who supported morally and even financially what we were doing in Birmingham and Selma were really outraged against the extremist behavior.
I didn't mean to laugh, but he said, Genghis Khan, what's up there, hero to hire? Good to see you. Right. Come on. Yo, rebel that guy. Stop.
Behavior of Bull Connor and Jim Clark toward Negroes rather than believing in genuine equality for Negroes. And I think this is what...
Or am I? They are actors in movies. He says, I'm confusing the two. It's not me confusing the two. It's you guys that are confusing the two. How many movies have y'all made about what's the guy? Charles Manson, Helter Skelter. There was a song by the Beatles that y'all played every year. Helter Skelter. Remember? Like I said, I'm not a college educated man, but I got common sense. One thing I do know, that knowledge it's not going to come to you, sir. You got to go get it. And I go get it. If I wasn't comfortable up here talking about this shit, if I thought that I didn't know what I would be talking about or saying, I wouldn't be up here. I wouldn't embarrass myself. Unlike some of these other folks, they get up on these platforms and they say, apps are saying nothing, talking loud. So far, prove me wrong. Even the folks that's on the money. Thomas Jefferson said, what did he do? What was his greatest accomplishment other than right? Okay, let's not go down that road. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna use my man's phrase on that. Let me get up out of that. George Washington, let me get up out of that. Had somebody else teeth in his mouth talking about, y'all try to convince us that George Washington chopped down the cherry tree belonging to his dad, never told a lie. But we now know that he was lying about them teeth in his mouth. That's one of your heroes, sir. We know Abraham Lincoln is a hero of y'all's too, but guess what? We now know that Abraham Lincoln was not in favor of freeing the slaves. That's one of your heroes, sir. We know that Christopher Columbus did not discover America. That's one of your heroes, sir. Those aren't actors. Let's see this one. And what's up there, Tom? You're absolutely right. And this is why I do the things that I do, because a lot of times you hear these young folks say history is a waste of time. That the baby boomers, Gen X, and the silent generation is just a bunch of hot air. They act like we're all gone, but yet they'll sit around all day long. Go look for yourself. How many streams right now is covering Anton Daniels and what's his name? Corey Holcomb. Well, I'm not saying the option that he's your hero, but in some parts of your culture, he's relished. Now, there's two things, like Donald Trump. You either go down in history one or two things, either in infamy or infamous. Which one did Genghis Khan choose? He wasn't trying to be famous. He was trying to be infamous. He didn't care how history saw him. Okay. No, you didn't ever hear me say that Louis Farrakhan was my hero. But to some, Louis Farrakhan is not a hero. He's more of a teacher. I don't think there's I can't say that. Maybe the Nation of Islam, they do pedestalize Louis Farrakhan. But is he wrong? Is he out raping, murdering, pillaging, killing? Or is he out there pointing out the illness and the fallacies of this so-called American dream? So I think if someone was to consider him a hero, I could understand why. Wouldn't you think so, Wayne? Let's continue.
What we've got to see now, and this is what makes the struggle much more difficult. And so as a result of all of this, we see many problems existing today that are growing more difficult. It's something that is often overlooked, but Negroes generally live in worse slums today than 20 or 25 years ago. In the North, schools are more segregated today than they were in 1954 when the Supreme Court's decision on desegregation.
No, sir. If Martin Luther King had anything to do with what's going on today, he'd be ashamed. Maybe you didn't catch the beginning of my stream. So maybe you didn't catch the beginning of my stream, Martin. So, option. What's that? You didn't catch the beginning, did you? So let me do something here, sir. Hold on just a second. It's obvious you didn't catch the beginning of the stream. Let me see. Is this it? Let me see something. Can I play it? Let me see. Yep.
Excuse me, brothers and sisters, please. If someone could just turn off.
King looked out on his people and saw they were in great need. So he did what all great leaders do. He told them the truth.
Will you ignorant niggas please shut the hell up?
He just said what I think he said.
Is this it? This is what I got all those ass whoopings for? I had a dream once. It was a dream that little black boys and little black girls would drink from the river of prosperity, freed from the thirst of oppression. But lo and behold, some 4 decades later, what have I found but a bunch of trifling, shiftless, good-for-nothing niggers? And I know some of you don't want to hear me say that word. It's the ugliest word in the English language, but that's what I see now.
Does that answer your question? Option. If Martin Luther King was alive today and he got up on the pulpit, he's one of my heroes. You're absolutely right. He's absolutely right there. You're absolutely right. Them option. He is one of my heroes. Is there something wrong for that? Am I being wrong for saying that this man, in all his infinite wisdom, some 40, 50 years later, his words would come back to haunt the United States of America as he ringing a bell outside your church? Because tell me what he's wrong about. Maybe you should go, instead of us talking, maybe you should go and find this clip, listen to it its entirety without any interruption. Because Lord knows you're not going to let us do it. I could have done this as an upload, sir. I was expecting folks like you to come and show up. Fred Hampton, absolutely right. Another one of our heroes. What's that guy's name? You know, someone sent me a clip the other day of one of your so-called heroes getting his ass whipped. What's his name? Lang? Got his ass whipped for burning the Quran. I guess that was the right thing to do, huh? Huh? Got his ass whipped. down there in Minnesota. But that's one of your guys' heroes. He was one of those guys that was at the January 6th insurrection. They got pictures of him beating people with clubs, beating people with shields. That's one of your heroes, sir. Donald Trump pardoned all of them. Just think about it. If Donald Trump hadn't pardoned that guy, Lang, he wouldn't have took that ass whipping a couple of days ago. Miss me with it. I'm not sure what's up there. Nupak Shakur. Okay. Hero for Hire 369. Welcome in. Welcome in. For those that I miss from time to time, I do apologize. Another great one. We can go throughout history and find the greatness of us heroes in music, television, sports, economics. We got heroes everywhere. Born heroes, not manufactured. Born heroes. I'm not saying that white America doesn't. I'm not saying that Hispanic America doesn't. I'm not saying that Chinese America doesn't. But what I'm saying is y'all act like that we should not have these type heroes. No, I don't really know who Samuel Little is, to be quite honest with you. It's not on my radar. Do you know who he is? That might be telling me somebody that I don't need to know who he is, to be quite honest with you. Absolutely right. Our heroes ain't what they used to be. They sure ain't. And I'm not only hearing that from you, I'm hearing that from the young and the old. I'm hearing that from folks that's in their 20s. I'm hearing that from folks in their 30s, 40s, 50s, that I wish we could go back to the time to where our men casually would dress in slacks and shirts, not showing their ass, not sagging, not walking around smelling like Black and Miles. Going back to Corey and what's his name, Anton Daniels, that could have been a good thing. But there we go again, like someone's pointed out to me so eloquently. That is the nature of a lot of us. It ain't flight, it's fight. You ain't doing better than me. Compromised by money. Compromised by that shiny thing, like Shaka Zulu said. Compromised by that shiny thing.
Segregation was rendered. Economically, the Negro is worse off today than he was 15 and 20 years ago. And so the unemployment rate among whites at one time was about the same as the unemployment rate among Negroes. But today the unemployment rate among Negroes is twice that of whites.
Still is to this day. This was in the 1960s, and it still is today. 7.9 and 8.3 or something like that, compared to our white counterparts, which is like 4.5 and 3 point something. These folks, a couple months ago, when Trump went through and gutted the federal government system, he knew what he was doing. He knew he was taking jobs away from especially black women. Because black women are on his radar. You folks can argue that point all you want to, but go look at the amount of jobs that Trump summarily stripped away in this last term. Less than a year. Where unemployment for black women shot up from that low of 3.9, 3.74 to almost 7.5%. And a population that makes up 14% of this United States. Black men, 8.5, 8.4%. You guys are villains. Villains or victims, neither. I don't know about that. Segregation, slavery, segregation, racism. It's all this. It's all sad, and they will do it to everybody. No, they didn't do it to everybody, sir. You don't find no white person that said they lived under antebellum slavery, sir. So they didn't do it to everybody. You didn't find too many white people that was affected by not being able to go to a public school. So they didn't do it to everybody. Stop that. Another one of our heroes, James Baldwin. The list goes on. If we didn't have to manufacture these folks, they came from the greatness of us.
And the average income of the Negro is today 50% less than whites. And as we look at these problems, we see them growing and developing every day. And we see the fact.
Look at this question right here. How many heroes have to die before people wake up? You got to ask the people that's killing them that. Why do these people have to die in order to put a stop to racism, to put a stop to apartheid? Why did they have to die for that, sir? Y'all raised the flag. Y'all wanted to take the flags down, put them in half mast for what happened to Charlie Kirk. But you want to come here and argue with me about the greatness of that's one of y'all heroes. Charlie Kirk. Tell me it ain't. That's one of your heroes, Charlie Kirk. Well, Bridget, sometimes you're doing the right thing or you're saying the right thing when you touch somebody's nerve. That's why they're here. They want to they come over here to prove me wrong. They want to come over here and say, see? But unfortunately, what they're not going to get over here is the kick and buck tech guy.
That the Negro economically is facing a depression in his everyday life that is more staggering than the depression of the 30s. The unemployment.
Again, sir, I know Martin Luther King would be quite old, but I think if he had a choice, he would have not chosen to be killed for his beliefs. He wasn't killed because he was doing something wrong. He wasn't killed because he was robbing, stealing, murdering. He was killed for trying to raise conscious awareness of the plight of the American Negro, as he said it. The list goes on. Look at how many of our heroes these folks are just ripping off down in the chat, sir. Versus the ones I said. I haven't seen you yet. Put down one of your white heroes. Type a white hero in the chat for me. Type one of your white heroes in the chat, because look at the list goes on. Ozzie and Harriet Davis. W.E.B. Du Bois, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with everything he said. What's the guy's name? George Washington Carver. The list goes on. How you think you got to the moon? Henrietta Lacks. The list goes on. And you know Jesus ain't white. That's what y'all want to call it. I can't tell you. I can't tell you how to see Jesus, but you know, historically speaking, he ain't white. You know that. Virgil, did you come over here to tell me to quit whining, or did you come over here to tell someone in the chat room to quit whining? That was the highlight of your days, to come over here and tell me to quit whining. You ain't had nothing else better to do with your time to come into my conversation and tell me to quit whining. Get your bitch ass up out of here. Hey, you know what? No, leave him there. Leave him there. Leave him there. I was about to get rid of you quick, because some tell me I'm going to have to deal with you too there, Virgil. No, I'm not saying you, Nupac. I'm just saying that these other guys that keep saying that we shouldn't have black heroes. I have yet to see them type one of their white heroes. And he, as well, he absolutely should be. Crazy Horse should be a Native American hero, because if it not for Crazy Horse, the Indians would have been slaughtered a whole lot worse. If it not been for Crazy Horse. Remember, he's the one that decided that Custer's Last Stand was going to turn into a massacre. You're not coming over here with that no more, Custer. 7th Cavalry. You're not coming over here with that anymore. That was one of your heroes. George Custer. I don't know what you arguing about. I'm not arguing. I'm just speaking my mind. And some folks don't like what I'm saying. So, Errol Flynn, that's one of your heroes. Wasn't he Hollywood? Now, if you'd have put in Charles A. Lindbergh, I'd have gave you a point. How do I know what some of your heroes are? And you don't. You put Errol Flynn? You couldn't think of Lindbergh that quick? You couldn't think of Jonas Salk or one of them folks right quick? Like, you couldn't think of none of them?
Employment rate of the nation as a whole is about 4%.
I'm getting to it, man. Stop it.
Statistics would say from the Labor Department that among Negroes it's about 8.4%. But these are the persons who are in the labor market, who still go to employment agencies to seek jobs, and so they can be calculated. The statistics can be gotten because they are still somehow in the labor market. But there are hundreds of thousands of Negroes who have given up. They've lost hope. They've come to feel that life is a long and desolate corridor for them with no exit sign. And so they no longer go to look for a job. There are those who would estimate that these persons who are called the discouraged persons would be 6 or 7% in the Negro community. And that means that unemployment among Negroes may well be 16%. And among Negro youth in some of our large urban areas, it goes to 30 and 40%. And so you can see what I mean when I say that in the Negro community, that is a major, tragic, and staggering depression that we face in our everyday lives. Now, the other thing that we've got to come to see now that many of us didn't see too well during the last 10 years, that is that racism is still alive in American society and much more widespread than we realize.
You caught that too. I'm not sure how to say your name right there, but you caught that too. I was about to stop and say, look at the different people in the crowd, listening to one black man speak. And look at the difference of how quiet they are and how much attention they're paying to what he's saying. But yet you folks are down in the chat room coming in here with this. What a joke. What's the joke? Hey there, G Glow. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome in. Welcome in. Spies for who? And there lies the problem, sir. No real progress. And this is one of the things that I've been saying in my live streams over and over and over and over and over and over again, till I'm blue black in the face. No progress. Nothing's changed. Not from the 60s 70s, 80s, 90s, we're still talking about the same thing. I don't know, G Glow. I don't know why they decide that they want to come over here. Always ask them, of all the places, don't y'all got a Clan rally to go to? Don't you got a George Zimmerman, what do you call that, GoFundMe that you got to go tend to or something?
And we must see racism for what it is. It is a myth of the superior and the inferior race. It is the false and tragic notion that one particular group, one particular race is responsible for all of the progress, all of the insights, and the total flow of history. And the theory that another group or another race is totally depraved, innately impure, and innately inferior. And in the final analysis, racism is evil because its ultimate logic is genocide. Hitler was a sick and tragic man who carried racism to its logical conclusion. And he ended up leading a nation to the point of killing about 6 million Jews. And this is the tragedy of racism because its ultimate logic is genocide. If one says that I'm not good.
And there goes your answer right there, Glow Vibes. No matter what level that we're speaking truth, there will always be folks that come in here and tell us that what we're seeing is either a falsehood, a lie, or get over it, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, do this, because we are the greatest country in the world. And if you guys don't like what's going on here in the United States of America, go ahead and leave. Leave and go where? I was born here, sir. I was born in Kentucky. Leave and go where? Leave and go where? And do what? Because I don't like the way this country that I was born in is treating me. I should leave it. Because you think the way you living is better for me. You choose where I live. You choose how much money I make. You choose who I like, who I love. You choose whether my woman could go and have a procedure or whatever. That's the country you want me to live under and not say anything about.
Good enough to live next door to him. If one says that I am not good enough to eat at a lunch counter, or to have a good, decent job, or to go to school with him merely because of my race, he is saying consciously or unconsciously that I do not deserve to exist. To use a philosophical analogy here, racism is not based on some empirical generalization. It is based rather on an ontological affirmation. It is not the assertion that certain people are behind culturally or otherwise because of environmental conditions. It is the affirmation that the very being of a people is inferior. And this is the great tragedy of it.
And that is the great tragedy of it, because you will hear some black people like Anton Daniel saying there's no such thing as racism. You'll hear so many black folks say racism is dead. Can do, boo. Welcome in. Thank you very much. Let's see. As an adult, do whatever you want without hurting others. Then they target the kids, and it's a different story. That's child abuse. I agree with that statement. As a grown folks, you're entitled to your opinion, and you're entitled to the First Amendment and all these different amendments that they so glorify in the Constitution. But where does your rights end? I always say at the tip of your fingertip, as far as you can reach out, that's where your rights end at. And as soon as you reach over past that, you're invading somebody else's space. That's just my opinion. And race is definitely a social construct. E, I'll just call you E. It was based on so there's only one race, and that's the human race. Someone decided sometime in the 16th and 1700s that to go, let's split these people up because they found some white skulls somewhere, and based on the beauty of the white skull, it's probably been sitting out in the elements for God knows how long. They determined that white people naturally had to be on top. So I'll ask this for all you folks that believe that in this racial construct, if you was the person that was developing this such thing called racial construct, to where would you put yourself at the bottom? Here it is right there. Race is not a bad thing. Welcome, Tanya, 6722. Welcome in. Let's continue here. I'm not, what's his name? Option. I'm not even going to address that, sir.
I say that however unpleasant it is, we must honestly see and admit that racism is still deeply rooted all over America. It's still deeply rooted in the North, and it's still deeply rooted in the South.
And it sure is, because just on my last stream, folks, I pointed out there was a pastor. Well, maybe not my last stream, but the stream before that, there's a pastor supposed to call himself God-fearing, talking about you should go ahead and kill them little boys if they act up. That's the only way. Go out and kill out a few generations of them. Isn't that what they do to dogs? To calm the temperament of dogs? Isn't that what they do to animals? They breed them into what they want them to be. Deeply rooted. Deeply rooted. Charlie Kirk, before his untimely demise, the last words out of his mouth was about to be something derogatory about black folks. Talking about your irony. He was about to shit on black folks. Now, would we call that an omen? Would somebody from the religious sector that's black would say it? The God don't play about me when he refers to Charlie Kirk?
Now, this leads me to say something about another discussion that we hear a great deal, and that is the so-called white backlash. And I would like to honestly say to you that the white backlash is merely a new name for an old phenomenon. It's not something that just came into being because shouts of black power, or because Negroes engaged in riots in Watts, for instance. The fact is that the state of California voted a fair housing bill out of existence before anybody shouted black power, anybody rioted in Watts.
And that's what folks like to do. Y'all tore up your own streets, but not giving, context. Dr. King just gave you the reason for the Watts riots. Historical fact that you got to go back and look at. That's why I'm saying those who don't know history is doomed to repeat it. So the same thing is happening on right here in Minnesota, isn't it? Here we go. Another one of these loose cannons coming in talking about lazy motherfuckers get a job. You had nothing else to do better, aliens? You had no spaceship to catch nowhere? What, you missed the premiere of the last Men in Black show, so you decided to come over here? Here comes the Men in Black. Are you doing an audition? Did you miss that turn? That audition is down the road there, sir. Go ahead. Go on somewhere else. Bye now.
It may well be that shouts of black power and riots in Watts and the Harlems and the other areas are the consequences of the white backlash rather than the cause of them. what it is necessary to see is that there has never been a single solid monistic determined commitment on the part of the vast majority of white Americans, the whole question of civil rights and on the whole question of racial equality. This is something that truth impels all men of goodwill to admit. It is said on the Statue of Liberty that America is the home of exiles. But it doesn't take us long to realize that America has been the home of its white exiles from Europe. But it has not evinced the same kind of maternal care and concern for its black exiles from Africa. And it is no wonder that in one of his sorrow songs, a Negro could sing out, "Sometimes I feel like a motherless child." What great estrangement, what great sense of rejection caused the people to emerge with such a metaphor as they looked over their lives. What I'm trying to get across is that our nation has constantly taken a positive step forward on the question of racial justice and racial equality. But over and over again, at the same time, it made certain backward steps.
And that's where we're at right now. Our country itself has made strides. Can't take that away from the United States of America. To say that the United States as a whole has not made strides to make this country equal for all, that American dream accessible for all, in some cases, yes. But in most cases, absolutely not, because look what's going on right now. You got to give it up to the abolitionists. You got to give it up to the folks who did not look like us, that came out and walked with us in these streets. You got to give it up to them people. You got to give it up to those folks that said, you know what, regardless of what you look like, I'm in this with you, because I believe that all men are created equal and they should be treated as such. But for every one of them, there's 10 of them giving pushback. And that's the problem. Now, Tanya 6722, she says, Malcolm X, can you please give me your thoughts about him? I have a different thought process about King than most people, I think. Okay, well, again, not everybody is going to agree with Dr. Martin Luther King. And I think that's the same way it goes with Malcolm X. Not everybody agreed with the tactics of Malcolm X during that time. But if I was living during that time, I think I would have more leaned towards the side of Malcolm X by any means necessary. Because I'm under the assumption that folks don't hear you till you stop screaming at them. Until you start yelling at them, that's when people start paying attention. And I think Malcolm yelled a lot louder than Dr. King. Not saying that neither one of them were wrong about their methods, but what I'm saying is there's a point in time, it's time to shut up and put up. And I think if these two great leaders would have came together and we could have ironed out a plan to where it meshed with both of them, they're both ideas, I honestly believe that black people would be in a different state. But again, divide and conquer. They made one man believe that his beliefs was much different from the other. A lot of rhetoric was passed back and forth between the two. So I think, again, Malcolm X is one of my heroes personally, regardless of where he came from. I don't know Malcolm Little, but I do know Malcolm X. If that answers your question. Your artistry, welcome in.
This has been the persistence of the so-called white backlash. In 1863, The Negro was freed from the bondage of physical slavery, but at the same time the nation refused to give him land to make that freedom meaningful. And at that same period, America was giving millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that America was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor that would make it possible to grow and develop.
Is he wrong again? This was in the 60s, but remember there was a time right here in the last year and a half, 2 years, to where they tried to do what? Bring over the what? The white South African farmer. Trump said it himself. We don't want them folks from them shit old countries. Bring them from them other countries up there, them northern countries. We know what he was talking about, folks. That wasn't no dog whistle. That was a blowhorn. That was a foghorn. He couldn't have said it no louder. And people just fell in line. The Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Anna conspiracy. Oh, we gonna get to her. Somebody sent me a clip on her. Oh, buyer's remorse now. Oh, I'm gonna get you, Anna. We're gonna put you up full mast, like Dr. Richie says. We're gonna put you up full mast. I'm gonna get you. Not today, but I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
And refused to give that economic floor to its black peasants, so to speak. And this is why Frederick Douglass could say that emancipation for the Negro was freedom to hunger, freedom to the winds and rains of heaven, freedom without roofs to cover their heads. He went on to say that it was freedom without bread to eat, freedom without land to cultivate. It was freedom and famine at the same time. But it does not stop there. In 1875, the nation passed a civil rights bill and refused to enforce it. In 1964, the nation passed a weaker civil rights bill. And even to this day, that bill has not been totally enforced in all of its dimensions. Used to give that economic floor to its black peasants, so to speak. And this is why Frederick Douglass could say that emancipation for the Negro was freedom to hunger, freedom to the winds and rains of heaven, freedom without roofs to cover their heads. He went on to say that it was freedom without bread to eat, freedom without land to cultivate. It was freedom and famine at the same time. But it does not stop there. In 1875, the nation passed a civil rights bill.
1875, for all of y'all that don't know, long before the Civil Rights Bill of 1964, 65, 67, 68, this nation itself passed a Civil Rights Bill, 1875. Do the math. Didn't live up to it then. 1965. Didn't live up to it then. These are not my words, folks. This is actual historical fact. You can go look up for yourself. But yet you people here coming here like this. Liberal. What's liberal about it? Guilty? Guilty of being right? Explain yourself. What do you mean liberal? You just come in with a drive-by one word? Let's expound on it a little bit. Just don't come in and say, are you calling me a liberal? Is that it? Don't just come in with a one-word drop. Explain yourself. Or you should just come in from the island of misfits and this is just a layover for you. What's up? And see, the thing about you trolls is I'm ready to confront you. I'm good with it. Say it again, cowboy. He's using one word because he can't articulate. Most trolls cannot. Try to copy and paste, guilty. Try and go copy and paste. Go over to one of those sites that you used to hang out at. Go into one of them chats, copy and paste some negative comment, and bring it back over here. Can you do that? Will that help you out? Can you do that? Will that help you a little bit?
And refused to enforce it. In 1964, the nation passed a weaker civil rights bill. And even to this day, that bill has not been totally enforced in all of its dimensions. The nation heralded a new day of concern for the poor, for the poverty-stricken, for the disadvantaged, and brought into being a poverty bill. But at the same time, it put such little money into the program that it was hardly and still remains hardly a good skirmish against poverty.
And this is where the point of some of you black folks like the BGSs. Happy MLK from Madison, Wisconsin. Be safe out there, good brother. Be safe out there, my man. Be safe out there. But like the BGSs and the Angry Mans and the Obsidians of the black Anton Daniels of the black YouTube streets will say that the welfare system put the black man out the house. The welfare system took the black man out the house. No, sir. It's called survival. Only the strong can survive, because believe me, that money that it was getting out to those needy families back in the 60s and 70s was not it. Did not, no one got rich off that, believe me. The 80s. But guess who gets busted more for welfare fraud than anyone else in this country? Guess what group of folks get busted for welfare fraud more than anyone else on a larger scale? Care to take a guess? They won't tell you that, though, will they?
White politicians in suburbs talk eloquently against open housing, and in the same breath contend that they are not racist. And all of this and all of these things tell us that America has been backlashing on the whole question of basic constitutional and God-given rights for Negroes and other disadvantaged groups for more than 300 years. So these conditions, persistence of widespread poverty, of slums, and of tragic conditions in schools and other areas of life, all of these things have brought about a great deal of despair and a great deal of desperation, a great deal of disappointment and even bitterness in the Negro communities. And today all of our cities confront huge problems. All of our cities are potentially powder kegs as a result of the continued existence of these conditions. Many in moments of anger, many in moments of deep bitterness, engage in riots. And let me say, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating. I'm still convinced that nonviolence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in that.
Well, this is one of those things that I'll have to say personally that I disagree with Dr. King on. And I'm not saying that, but I'm a staunch believer that, and I'm going to take a quote from Tupac. We knocked on the door. We knocked on the door softly. Can you let us in? We hungry. Next time we came back, we knocked on the door a little bit harder. Can you let us in? We hungry. Third time we came back, we coming in this motherfucker, whether you want us to or not. I think there was a point in time that it was time in the 60s to do that. because that was the closest to me in the life that I know that the United States of America has ever come to grips with confronting racism head on. And for that, folks like Dr. King, Medgar Evers, those 4 girls that lost their life in that church, Malcolm X, scores of other black folks lost their life over. That's just my opinion.
For freedom and justice, I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve. That in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me to be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear?
Do you understand that? So that perfectly describes what I was just talking about. A riot is the language of people that are unheard. If you go back to, as they call it, the bloody summer of 2000, and if you start looking at the overall landscape of those folks that were really rioting, you will see that it was not black people after a while. Yeah, we was pissed about what happened to George Floyd. But as with everything, hey there, Pure Butterfly, good to see you. As with everything, they tell us, hey, back up. Let's wait for the courts to decide what goes on. Let's see if there's going to be a crime bill passed that make what these folks do to us literal hate crimes. Has the George Floyd crime bill been passed yet? Has it been passed yet? You remember the kid that was in Georgia that they hunted down? And it wasn't, but the only reason we saw the footage of what really happened is because they were sharing it amongst themselves, and one of them grew a conscience and said, let me get this out there. I'm talking about Ahmaud Arbery. You remember him? Remember how many officials, actual police officials, decided not to prosecute this case before it made federal headlines, national news, on a slip up? Remember that?
It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position.
His name was Ahmaud Arbery, a father and son. If you're not familiar with the case, Nupac, a father and son, some years ago, a kid was going through a neighborhood. He went into a house that was either being built or about to be under construction. They decided to take it amongst themselves that this kid was stealing. In the quest of them chasing this kid down for more than 5 minutes, They summarily killed him. They tried to cover up. This happened sometime in sometime back at one point in time, but it did not make national news for months. There's some police folks, commissioners or whatever that saw the case that should have brought these people to justice, the father and son, but they decided that they weren't going to prosecute, and they went through every possible measure to hide this. But what happened was somebody's leaked that cell phone footage of them chasing Ahmaud Arbery down with the truck, hitting him with the truck. And even when he tried to get past them, got out of their truck, shot this kid in cold blood and left him to die in the middle of the street. And what's the worst thing about it? Like the policeman that killed this young lady here recently, as Ahmaud Arbery lay on that street dying, you could literally hear one of those two white men say, "You fucking nigger." The ultimate disrespect. Ahmaud Arbery. May he rest in peace. But the list goes on of black men like me that could give you stories just like that. I have my own personal story. Carl Williams. Still haven't found out who took our friend. I can guarantee you can go throughout damn near every person in South Carolina and find someone in their family that was taken out, not because they were doing something wrong. George Steinme was 14 years old when they executed him. The kid was so small they had to put him on phone books so they could kill him.
Of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention.
Of course you can.
Now let me go on
Right ahead,
to say that if we are to deal with all of the problems that I've talked about, if we are to bring America to the point that we have one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, there are certain things that we must do. The job ahead must be massive and positive. We must develop massive action programs all over the United States of America in order to deal with the problems that I have mentioned. Now, in order to develop these massive action programs, we've got to get rid of one or two false notions that continue to exist in our society. One is the notion that only time can solve the problem of racial injustice. I'm sure you've heard this idea. It is the notion almost that is something in the very flow of time that will miraculously cure all evils. And
time waits for no man, does it?
I've heard this over and over again. There are those, and they're often sincere people, who say to Negroes and their allies in the white community that we should slow up and just be nice and patient and continue to pray, and in 100 or 200 years the problem will work itself out, because only time can solve the problem. Well, I think that is an answer to that myth, and it is that time is neutral. It can be used either constructively or destructively. And I'm absolutely convinced that the forces of ill will in our nation, the extreme righteous in our nation, have often used time much more effectively than the forces of goodwill. And it may well be that we will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the vitriolic words of the bad people and the violent actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence and indifference of the good people who sit around and say, wait on time. Somewhere we must come to see that social progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and the persistent work of dedicated individuals, and without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the primitive forces of social stagnation. And so we must help time, and we must realize that the time is always right to do right. Now there's another notion that gets out. It's around everywhere. It's in the South, it's in the North, it's in California and all over our nation. It's a notion that legislation can't solve the problem. It can't do anything in this area. And those who project this argument contend that you've got to change the heart, and that you can't change the heart through legislation.
Okay, let me address this right here. Let me see this. Welcome in, Charles Hale. Let's see. You will raise up your voices and arms, or you will let me be buried. Let the doctor sleep and stop mocking him in silence, dreaming. What? He didn't get shot dead, and we have still done nothing. Let him go. All I can say is rips. Reading is fundamental. Because I'm going to try and make sense of what you just said. Okay. I'm going to try and make sense of this, Charles. I don't know if you're trying to be I don't know. So let me try this again. Y'all see this on the screen, so follow along. I maybe need them little dots for this one. You will raise up your voices and arms, or you will let me be buried. Let the doctor sleep and stop mocking him. Oh, excuse me, stop mocking him in silence, dreaming that he didn't get shot dead. I'm not dreaming about that, folks. What are you talking about? That doesn't make it. Well, I don't know how to address this, because there's so many ways to go with this, but I'm just gonna walk down the street. If I don't give a fuck no more, all right? I'm just gonna walk down. I'm gonna stop trying to appease folks that's coming in here making comments. All right, because I'm starting to get a little bit riled up with y'all shit. Now, I don't know if you're trying to be a troll. I don't know if you're trying to be a wise ass or whatever, but let me see. You will raise up your arms and voices. Or your voices and arms. Okay, I got that part. Yeah, we will do that. You'll let me be buried. Or wait a minute. Or you will let me be buried. I'm trying to figure that out. Let the doctor sleep and stop mocking him. Still don't get that part. How am I mocking the good doctor? By speaking of what he spoke on. How's that mocking him? And this the part that get me. What you mean he didn't get shot dead? Fuck with you. I guess the Lorraine Motel didn't mean nothing to you, huh? I guess all that historical fact that we saw out there of Dr. King being laying out on that balcony, none of that happened, huh? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Is that what you're saying? I'm going to go to your next comment to make sure. I hate this attitude, MLK lovers. Sit idle and he has gone. See, that's what I thought you were. I thought you were a troll. But what has John Wayne done for you lately? What has Donald Trump done for you lately, sir? What has Christy Nome done for you lately? What has George Bush done for you lately? What did Benjamin Harrison do for you? What did Andrew Jackson do for you? Because y'all were quick to repeat them guys. So much so, what did Thomas Jefferson do for you? Y'all put these folks on money. Who in the hell left the gate open and let motherfuckers like you in? Huh? Charles? You had nothing else better to do. There was no crying rally today in opposition of Dr. King that you had to come over here. Did I show up in your algorithm for some reason or the other? Because I didn't tag you. No, today is not his birthday. His birthday is January 15th. This is the day we celebrate his birthday. I care to disagree. Maybe you haven't moved a single stone. Let me see this here. We don't talk, march, or fight now. It's 2026. Look at us. Well, again, if you really look at it, Charles, let me put my coffee down. I got a little cold anyway. But if you really look at it, Charles, everything that they call what they call civil disobedience, most black people spearheaded it. Most white people just ambushed it. Watch riots. As they say, the bloody summer of 2020, the Rodney King riots. We got tired of being pushed around, so we did something about it. And what they do? Remember when the Black Panthers went up to the California legislation, and what did they do? Made it illegal for anybody to carry firearms anymore, huh? See, that's what the problem is. Y'all want us to. I guarantee, if I was up here talking about one of your heroes, if I was up here talking about what's his name, yeah, it's hard to come up with a white hero for y'all. I know that's who you are. Mr. DJ Music is a what? No, I don't think he died in vain, sir. I think his death was tragic and could have been avoided. I don't know how long Dr. King would have lived, but something tells me that no, he did not die in vain. Do we have some cleaning up to do in our neighborhoods to atone for what Dr. King is talking about? Absolutely. But I'm a product of Dr. King not dying in vain. My nieces and nephews, doctors and lawyers, they're products of what Dr. King was talking about. So no, I don't think he died in vain. No, sir. Who is they? You pretended they didn't strike against us. He was slain. I agree with you. He was killed for his beliefs. I agree with you, Charles. You won't get an argument from me on that one. He wasn't killed because he was robbing the local liquor store. He wasn't killed because, like y'all say about George Floyd, he was hyped up on fentanyl. Was it? I don't think so.
Now, I would be the first one to say that there is real need for a lot of heart changing in our country. And I believe in changing the heart. I preach about it. I believe.
Say it again, the old school rules. We will never forget the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. I hope that my children pass it on to their children. I hope that some of the readings and the writings, especially now that it's a little bit more easier to access, that my children go back and point out to their children and their children, their children. I hope this man's legacy never dies. I hope that MLK is always a part of our collective. They want us to forget. That's why they try to go through. That's why Donald Trump is trying to go through right now and erase everything great about black folks, because they want us to forget. They want us to stop talking about it. But I'm not. And I'm sure a lot of us are not either. You're absolutely right about that, Connie. George Bush has done nothing for anyone other than himself. This man created an entire war. Was that a senior or junior? You know they both was in cahoots. Don't tell me senior didn't know what junior was doing. Again, Charles, that's why I said I wasn't sure what side of the street that you was on. And when you come in with comments like that, I got to treat you as hostile until you prove me otherwise. When you agree? If you go back and look at your statement its entirety, maybe it's typos or whatever, maybe it's some run-on sentences or whatever that I didn't quite agree. But if you go back and look at that sentence that you typed, it wouldn't seem that you initially came in here under opposition. I mean, it didn't come in here as a pro Dr. King. You seem like you came in here under opposition. That's all I'm saying. Ain't that right, ABT? You looking at the same thing I'm looking at? I don't know there, Connie. She says, I didn't say a blinking thing about them guys. Who are you listening to? The voices in your head? I don't know if that's directed at me or someone else. So I'm gonna have to go with that. Well, no, talk. You got to give the people up. You got to give the people to use their time, my man. You have to come to the table and before you go to any discord, civil unrest, anything like that. That's got to be the last option. Or it may be from the. I know that the screens are sometimes split. They're pure butterfly, so some of the comments I might be not being able to see because I'm on StreamYard and I shut down just to where I could just see one screen. So if I am missing some comments, folks, my apologies for that. I don't have anyone blocked. Well, I take that back. I have 3 people blocked, but that was from a long time ago. So no one in this chat right now is blocked.
Even the need for conversion in many instances and regeneration, to use theological terms. And I would be the first to say that if the race problem in America is to be solved, the white person must treat the Negro right, not merely because the law says it, but because it's natural, because it's right, and because the Negro is his brother. And so I realize that if we are to have a truly integrated society, men and women will have to rise to the majestic heights of being obedient to the unenforceable. But after saying this, let me say another thing which gives the other side, and that is that although it may be true that morality cannot be legislated, behavior can be regulated, even though it may be.
And you're absolutely right there, old school. Charles, and I think the same sentiment that I share with old school. I can understand your frustration, brother. I can understand how you can say that. This lands squarely on us, but in some cases, in a lot of cases, you're right. Because we got things like the Zeus Network. We got Real Housewife of Atlanta, where one of those ladies got shut down by some guy talking about you put your entire life, your husband, your children, and in front of the whole world to see. Or Basketball Wives. You guys are talking about being wives, and none of y'all are married. So do we have some cleaning up to do what word do I want to use? Do we have a lot of cleaning up to do to come full face with Dr. Newton, Dr. King is talking about? Absolutely. So I can understand the disappointment and dismay when we see young brothers walking around and we got to tell them, man, pull your pants up. Nobody want to see your drawers. Or we got to tell our young sisters, titties is nice, but we don't need to see them all the time.
True that the law cannot change the heart It can restrain the heartless, even though it may be true that the law cannot make a man love me, it can restrain him from lynching me, and I think that's pretty important also. And so while the law may not change the hearts of men, it can and it does change the habits of men. And when you begin to change the habits of men, pretty soon the attitudes will be changed, pretty soon the hearts will be changed. Now, I'm convinced that we still need strong civil rights legislation. And there's a bill before Congress right now to have a national federal open housing bill, a federal law declaring discrimination in housing unconstitutional, and also a bill to make the administration of justice real all over our country. Now, nobody can doubt the need for this. Nobody can doubt the need if he thinks about the fact that since 1963, some 58 Negroes and white civil rights workers have been brutally murdered in the state of Mississippi alone. And not a single person has been convicted for these dastardly crimes. There have been some indictments, but no one has been convicted. And so there is a need for the whole question of the administration of justice. There is a need for fair housing laws all over our country.
There's a need for all of those. Again, this is the 1960s, and we're still talking about this Fair Housing Act. Now, speaking of that, remember back in 1973, 72, 73, what was this president of the United States right now? What was he convicted of, folks? Well, not convicted of, but what did they find? What did he lose? He lost a bunch of lawsuits to where they were not allowing black folks to rent his buildings. They were instructed by those folks that anytime someone came into their place that they owned, to put a C on the application of the rental application to make sure that they knew that I was a colored person. Now, I don't know what this is about. Again, I have to take everything to what I see it as a grain of salt right now, but Prince family, let me ask you something. Why would you come in here and say this? Happy birthday, Michael King Jr., BKA Martin Luther King Jr. His name is Martin Luther King. The most important part of that is Junior. That means he has a father before him that carried that same name, that he felt it was so important that he passed it on down to his son. But here you are, with nothing to do, on a Monday afternoon, 5:07 in the evening, and type that. And type that. Come on, man. You got nothing better to do. The Islets of Misfits is down the street to the left. Take that corner. It's on Dumbass Boulevard. You'll find it right there. Pull you up a seat, park your car, and then walk on up in the door and knock on it and say, hey, I'm here for that regular weekly Klan rally. They'll let you right on in.
And it is tragic indeed that Congress last year allowed this bill to die. And that bill died in Congress. A bit of democracy died, a bit of our commitment to justice died. And if it happens again in this session of Congress, a greater degree of our commitment to democratic principles will die. And I can see no more dangerous trend in our country than the constant developing of predominantly Negro central cities ringed by white suburbs. This is only inviting social disaster. And the only way this problem will be solved is by the nation taking a strong stand and by state governments taking a strong stand against housing segregation and against discrimination in all of these areas. Now, there's another thing that I'd like to mention as I talk about the massive action program in time.
No, absolutely, New Park. None of our leaders are perfect. No man walking this earth, no woman walking this earth is perfect. We all have something to atone for, good, bad, or indifferent. We all have something in our life that we might have regret doing, we might have regret saying, or but none of us is perfect. Not even the ones that we hold to a high esteem. I'm just saying, nobody's perfect.
Not permit me to go into specific programmatic action to any great degree. But it must be realized now that the Negro cannot solve the problems by himself. And there again, there are those who always say to Negroes, why don't you do something for yourself? Why don't you lift yourselves by your own bootstraps? And we hear this over and over again. Now, certainly, there are many things that we must do for ourselves and that only we can do for ourselves. Certainly, we must develop within a sense of dignity and self-respect that nobody else can give us, a sense of manhood, a sense of personhood, a sense of not being ashamed of our heritage, not being ashamed of our color. It was wrong and tragic that the Negro ever allowed himself to be ashamed of the fact that he was black, or ashamed of the fact that his ancestral home was Africa. And so there's a great deal that the Negro can do to develop self-respect. There's a great deal
that the black man today can do to develop self-respect, dignity. One of those things that you can do is get the fuck off the internet talking about the ills of other black folks that you ain't got nothing else to do. 8, 9, 10-hour streams talking about how fucked up black women are. 8, 9, 10-hour streams talking about catch a flight. 8, 9, 10-hour streams talking about if you don't say something against black folks, then you don't have a channel. 8, 9, 10-hour streams of hit that link, hit that Cash App, support the stream. Hey there, Niravox. How you doing? How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. I did this Pure Butterfly, and I'll say this for sure. I watched all weekend. Someone asked me this the other day. Has anyone done anything on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? I said, no, look around you. Not even an honorable mention on his birthday, which was actually the 15th. Not even an honorable mention. So I watched all weekend. I was going to do a little musical tribute to him on my radio program, but I said, nah, you know what? This is a visual thing here. Folks need to see this. Folks need to see this man talking. So that's why I'm doing this today.
The Negro must do and can do to amass political and economic power within his own community and by using his own resources. And so we must do certain things for ourselves, but this must not negate the fact and cause the nation to overlook the fact that the Negro cannot solve the problem himself. A man was on the plane with me some weeks ago, and he came and talked with me, and he said, the problem, Dr. King, that I see with what you all are doing is that every time I see you and other Negroes, you are protesting, and you aren't doing anything for yourselves. And he went on to tell me that he was very poor at one time, and he was able to make it by doing something for himself. Why don't you teach your people, he said, to lift themselves by their own bootstraps? And then he went on to say other groups face disadvantages, the Irish, the Italians, and he went down the line. And I said to him that it does not help the Negro, it only deepens his frustration for unfeeling and sensitive people to say to him that other ethnic groups who migrated or were immigrants to this country just 100 years ago or so have gotten beyond him, and he came here some 344 years ago. And I went on to remind him that the Negro came to this country involuntarily in chains, while others came voluntarily. I went on to remind.
And there's nothing I need to say about that, but let me go ahead and adjust this right here. He says, what's up there, Roy? I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name, so I'll just call you Roy. Okay, Roy, why don't you mention people's character, not their skin? You must have just dropped in the door, because I've been talking a whole lot about character today. You must have just came through the door. Not too many times in this broadcast today, sir, have I mentioned skin color. Only when need be necessary. Hit dogs holler. I don't need to mention skin color to make a point. Some things are just painfully obvious. I think what Dr. Martin Luther King is talking about right now is painfully obvious, sir. He's not talking about the greatness of white folks. He's not shitting on white folks. He's telling y'all white folks that something need to be done. He's also said the same thing to black folks. He ain't shitting on us. He ain't congratulating us. He's telling us something need to be done. You can't blame it all on white men. You can't blame it all on the system. Somebody gonna say, well, they forced us. No one forced you to sell drugs, sir. There's such thing called lawnmower, rake, shovels, all kind of shit. You could have went out and found another way of doing living somewhere else, but that we know the drug trade is more lucrative. Right. It has nothing to listen. One thing for sure, let me get to the skin color thing because it seems to always be an idea. There's no place that I can go in this world and not be identified as a black man. There's absolutely no place in this world that I can go and I will not be identified as a black man. Chances are they'll identify me as a black American quicker. And if they don't identify me right away, as soon as I open up my mouth, chances are they will. But on the same token, some of my white palm-colored folks, they could just about blend in anywhere. You could be from Poland and slide right on into white America. You could be from Ireland, slide right on into white America. You could be from South Africa, slide right on into white America. Well, no one never asks, hey, as long as you speaking at what they call proper English, chances are no one's going to ever ask you where you're from. They're just going to see you as a white American. So there's no way that I cannot go anywhere in this country and not be seen as what I am. So let's take skin color out of this because skin color does identify me automatically. But it doesn't identify my palm-colored folks automatically. Get what I'm saying?
Him that no other racial group has been a slave on American soil. I went on to remind him that the other problem that we have faced over the years is that the society placed a stigma on the color of the Negro, on the color of his skin, because he was black. Doors were closed to him that were not closed to other groups. And I'm to say to people that you ought to lift yourself by your own bootstraps, but it is a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. The fact is that millions of Negroes, as a result of centuries of denial and neglect, have been left bootless, and they find themselves impoverished aliens.
Yeah, got to ask yourself sometimes, how you going to lift yourself up by your bootstrap if you don't have one? And it depends, Nupac. It depends on if a subject hits me right away that I feel like that I want to cover. But usually once, twice a week, I'll go live. Usually, it's usually on a Wednesday or sometime on the weekend. But today, since it's Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday and I don't have another meeting at 7 o'clock, I decided to do this live today. So, but yeah, it's usually on Wednesdays, Thursdays, or during the weekend, sometime on a Saturday that I might go live. But if you will, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you don't mind. I'll make sure to click on that little bell and notifications, and hopefully YouTube will send you a notification that, hey, that I'm live. And you're right there. I'll call you for you bastards. Okay. I get the ornery of that, for you bastards. Some of y'all folks are quite clever with these names. For you bastards. But yeah, that has happened to everyone. There's no one that's exclusive to that. You're right. But I'm just making a point that I can't go anywhere in this world and someone identified by my color. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it hasn't happened to other folks, because it has. I guarantee a white person couldn't go to Mexico without being called gringo. Fuck, what part of the United States you're from? When you agree? When you agree? El Boogie, let's see. I'm not fond of that kind of gaslighting. Black people didn't create that entire system of racism, paper bag test. But you got to live credence to that there, because remember the movie School Days? That's what Spike Lee was focusing on, that paper bag test. We used to call them pastors back in the day, remember? And a lot of times the darker skin black wasn't allowed to go to some of those schools. Gatekeepers. The paper bag test. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we got a lot to. I won't say I won't call it the racism factor, but we have a lot to do with that, as they call it. What word am I looking for here? That it's not racism, but that preconceived notion that someone is better than you just because of where they came from. You know what I mean?
In this affluent society, and that is a great deal that the society can and must do if the Negro is to gain the economic security that he needs. Now, one of the answers, it seems to me, is a guaranteed annual income, a guaranteed minimum income for all people and for all families of our country. It seems to me
okay, let me go ahead and address this right here. You bastard says, we've elected black senators, congressmen, and presidents. They only lifted themselves up. No, sir. Is Jasmine Crockett only lifting herself up right now? Go back to former Vice President Harris. Was she lifting herself up when she started that one step, that first step rule? That even though folks were sent to prison, she wanted them to find a pathway back into it. The list goes on of great folks. We ain't talking about Byron Donalds. Okay, we're not talking about the guy from South Carolina, Tim Scott. Because again, we do have some folks that get black folks, black men, black women, like Tiffany Henyard. Now, if you wanted to point her out and use that as an example of this, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like I said, I don't mind pointing out the obvious, but sometimes you gotta put context to what you're pointing out. Not everyone that's been elected to office, that's been black, man or woman, is went into the office just for themselves. I'm not sure. Mark D. I'm not sure what you mean by this. Know too much about man's personal vice and flaws. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but I just read it, I guess. I don't know, man. That's what I was looking for. Prejudice. That's the exact word I was looking for there. Old school. Absolutely right. Jasmine Crockett is a warrior. She absolutely is. Imagine, imagine, she's even said it herself. Imagine the amount of death threats this woman receives on a daily basis. Fonnie Willis down there in Georgia. Imagine the amount of death threat that she's has received over the years just because she decided to hold Trump accountable. Somebody came in here earlier talking about holding people accountable. Imagine what this woman's life is going through now that she tried to hold Trump accountable for trying to rig an election. Okay. Quinn, by God, I guess you just didn't have nothing else to say. Didn't have nothing else to say. That's why you came in here with that. See, I don't mind you guys trolling, but at least come with some shit that's funny. I don't think Coretta Scott King at any time thought Martin Luther King Jr. was a gay man. Chances are, if he was a gay man, Quinn, we probably wouldn't be talking about Dr. Martin Luther King right now. He wouldn't have children. You guys come in here with some of the most idiotic. Your fingers should be snapped when you come in here with shit like that. Do I? Do I consider Kamala as a hero? Yes. Yes. Regardless of what folks say, for some folks, she is definitely a hero. Do I consider her a hero? To what level? Yes. The stage is to her being heroic. I think to come up under some of the things that she did for the state of California and what she tried to do for the country as a whole. Yes. In some cases, she is a heroine. Yes. And I'm not talking about the kind you shoot up on your arm. Quite fond of her, to be quite honest with you. Again, with anything, New I don't agree with all of her policies. I don't agree with some of the things she said, but that's the beauty of politics. You can support someone, but not have to agree with everything about them. I know, but if I go back into her accolades, I will have to say, I'll ask you this question. You got two people coming in for a job. You don't know either one of them. All you know is you see two resumes. One says neither name is on the resume. One, I guess, lists all the accomplishments of former Vice President Harris, and the other one lists all the accomplishments of current President Donald Trump. Who would you hire? Who would you hire? Let's play some more of this.
It seems to me that the civil rights movement must now begin to organize for the guaranteed annual income, begin to organize people all over our country and mobilize forces so that we can bring to the attention of our nation this need and this something which I believe will go a long, long way toward dealing with the Negro's economic problem and the economic problem with many other poor people confronting our nation. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk about Vietnam, but I can't make a speech without mentioning some of the problems that we face there, because I think this war has diverted attention from civil rights. It has strengthened the forces of reaction in our country and has brought to the forefront the military-industrial complex.
Isn't that what's going on right now? Isn't that what's going on right now? Forget the civil rights of people. We just gonna send ICE in and groups can snatch you up off the street. No due process, no nothing. We're just going to start going over to other countries, invading them with impunity, blowing up boats in the water that we know they could not reach here. And why is all this? Why is all these distractions happening, folks? We don't have a Vietnam, but we do have the Epstein files, don't we? We do have the Epstein files, don't we?
Even President Eisenhower warned us against it one time. And above all, it is destroying human lives. It's destroying the lives of thousands of the young, promising men of our nation, destroying the lives of little boys and little girls in Vietnam. But one of the greatest things that this...
And let me pause that right there. Donald Trump, correct me if I'm wrong, for any supporting Trump supporters. Donald Trump ran on two things. I think he actually won the presidency on two things. The one main thing that he said, one of the things he said was he was not going to start no new wars, that he was going to be America first. Well, as of now, Donald Trump has dropped bombs over 250 times, 260 times in less than a year. The same way folks will go and say, well, President Biden dropped 260 some bombs too. That was in 4 years. That was in 4 years. But also, he didn't run on the campaign of, I'm going to be the anti-war president like Trump did. He didn't go on run on the I'm make America first. Remember all of that? No new wars. No new wars. We're going to clean up the streets of America. We're going to, first 2016, 2017, we're going to drain the swamps. But we know damn near everybody in this first cabinet was either, I won't say impeached, either went to jail or got indicted for something. Damn near everyone on his first cabinet. He talking about they was going to preach equity. We were going to get rid of DEI. Can you think anything more DEI than Donald Trump receiving that Nobel Peace Prize from somebody else? Can you think of anything more DEI than that? Child of God, may God open my eyes for what? What am I missing? And what do you mean, Charles? We sure don't care about them files. I don't know if that's a positive or negative. Yeah, we do care about them. And anyone that had children around that time, because again, it's funny how everybody was in an uproar about locking Bill Cosby up. How Bill Cosby's trial, how Michael Jackson's trial, how all these other Russell Simmons and all these other trials that they made those same kind of accusations. Y'all wanted to roast and run these folks over the coals. They wanted to run these folks over the coals. They wanted to give Bill Cosby the maximum sentence. But they don't even want us to look at the Epstein files, even though there's pictures of Trump and Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with what's obvious underage girls. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to look at the face of some of those young girls and know that if they reached 17 yet, they were lucky. Sitting on Trump's lap, hugging Trump, kissing Trump, and he's grinning like a Cheshire cat.
War is doing to us in civil rights is that it is allowing the great society to be shot down on the battlefields of Vietnam every day. And I submit this afternoon that we can end poverty in the United States. Our nation has the resources to do it. The national gross product of America will rise to the astounding figure of some $7 this year. We have the resources.
Again, this is 1960s that Dr. King is speaking here. So let's talk about the military complex right now. Let's talk about this war machine right now. The military budget is enough to give everybody in this country some money. White, black, whatever nationality you are. The military budget itself has enough money in it to give everybody some money and still have a little left over. Not a little, a whole lot left over. We're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars that's dedicated to the military. Why? Because you know the only way that America is ever going to stay on top is to keep that military strong. That's our stronghold on the rest of the world, our military might. Whether you want to believe it or not, go look for yourself. Go look at the military budget versus the budget for the rest. Schools, housing, medicine. They're cutting that. Project 2025, there's a website that's dedicated to showing you how much of Project 2025 has been implemented already in less than a year. In less than a year. But folks like myself and Char Willie and ABT, we was up here talking about Project 2025, Pure Butterfly. We was up here talking about Project 2025. Information Man was talking about Project 2025. All of us that was talking about Project 20, Super Slide 25, 75 was talking about all these different content creators talking about Project 2025. You know what y'all was saying? It's a hoax. It can't happen. It won't happen. There's no way they'll be able to implement it. Go to that website. It's about 50% implemented already. Down to the letter. Anna Kasparian, I'm going to get you. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm going to get you. Because now y'all want to run in the woods and act like, there's no way we could have seen this coming. Yes, you did. Joe Rogan, I'm going to get you. Because the only reason y'all came out of the woodwork to go against Trump is because of these Epstein files. Y'all thought there was going to be some hard-hitting Democrats in those Epstein files. Release the hounds. Kash Patel. All these folks that's in the cabinet right now talking about we should have released these Epstein files now are saying, well, why didn't the Biden administration release them? You'll have to ask them. Biden ain't in office no more.
The question is whether the nation has the will, and I submit that if we can spend $5 billion a year to fight an ill-considered war in Vietnam and $20 billion to put a man on the moon, our nation can spend billions of dollars on their own 2 feet right here on earth. Let me say another thing that's more in the realm of the spirit, I guess. And that is, if we are to go on in the days ahead and make true brotherhood a reality, it is necessary for us to realize more than ever before that the destinies of the Negro and the white man are tied together. Now, there's still a lot of people who don't realize this. The racists still don't realize this. But it is a fact now that Negroes and whites are tied together. And we need each other. The Negro needs...
Do you understand that? The Negro, the whites, the Chinese, the Puerto Rican, the Mexicans, wherever part of the hemisphere you're from, the Koreans, if you consider yourself an American, we're all tied together in this thing they call this great American experiment. We're all tied together, especially black and white. Because as we see now, to where a lot of my palm colored friends thought that this administration, what they were doing was not going to affect them. You see now that it is. This administration does not care about color. It cares about wealth. It cares about the wealthy. It cares about those people that has billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that can use their money to articulate or articulate, or in other cases, even like Trump in Venezuela. What are those oil companies doing over there now? Donald Trump's talking about he's running a country, but at the same time, before he told Congress that he was going to invade Venezuela, he told the oil companies. Before he blew up the stock market a couple of years ago, what did he tell his friends? Put your money out, hold it for a second, and put it back in under this. And it's absolutely right. United we stand, divided we fall. I don't care what color you are.
The white man, to save him from his fear, the white man needs the Negro to save him from his guilt. We are tied together in so many ways: our language, our music, our cultural patterns, our material prosperity, and even our food are an amalgam of black and white. And so there can be no separate black path to power and fulfillment that does not intersect white roots. And there can be no separate white path to power and fulfillment short of social disaster. It does not recognize the need of sharing that power with black aspirations for freedom and justice. We must come to see now that integration is not merely a romantic or aesthetic something where you merely add color to a still predominantly white power structure. Integration must be seen also on political terms, where there is shared power and where black men and white men share power together to build a new and a great nation. In a real sense, we're all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Jean Donne placed it years ago in graphic terms: no man is an island entire itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. And he goes on toward the end to say, any man's death diminishes me because I'm involved in mankind. Therefore never sin to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. And so we all in the same situation. The salvation of the Negro will mean the salvation of the white man, and the destruction, the life, and of the ongoing progress of the Negro will be the destruction of the ongoing progress of the nation. Now let me say finally that we have difficult days ahead, but I haven't despaired. Somehow I maintain hope in spite of hope, and I've talked about the difficulties and how hard the problems will be as we tackle them. But I want to close by saying this afternoon that I still have faith in the future, and I still believe that these problems can be solved. And so I will not join anyone who will say that we still can't develop a coalition of conscience. I realize and understand the discontent and the agony and the disappointment and even the bitterness of those who feel that whites in America cannot be trusted. And I would be the first to say that there are all too many who are still guided by the racist ethos. But I am still convinced that there are still many white persons of goodwill, and I'm happy to say that I see them every day in the student generation, who cherish democratic principles and justice above principle, and who will stick with the cause of justice and the cause of civil rights and the cause of peace throughout the days ahead. And so I refuse to despair. I think we're going to achieve our freedom, because however much America strays away from the ideals of justice, the goal of America is freedom. Abused and scorned though we may be, our destiny is tied up in the destiny of America. Before the Pilgrim Fathers landed at Plymouth, we were here. Before Jefferson etched across the pages of history the majestic words of the Declaration of Independence, we were here. Before the beautiful words of the Star-Spangled Banner were written, we were here. And for more than 2 centuries, our forebears labored here without wages. They made cotton king. They built the homes of their masters in the midst of the most humiliating and oppressive conditions. And yet out of a bottomless vitality, they continued to grow and develop. And I say that if the inexpressible cruelties of slavery couldn't stop us, the opposition that we now face, including the so-called white backlash, will surely fail. We're going to win our freedom, because both the sacred head of our nation and the eternal will of the Almighty God are embodied in our echoing demands. And so I can still sing, we shall overcome. We shall overcome, because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. We shall overcome because Carlyle is right. No lie can live forever. We shall overcome because William Cullen Bryant is right. Truth crushed earth will rise again. We shall overcome because James Russell Lowell is right. Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future. With faith, we will be able to hew out of the mounting of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to speed up the day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and live together as brothers and sisters all over this great nation. That will be a great day. That will be a great tomorrow. In the word, to speak symbolically, that will be the day when the morning stars will sing together and the sons of God will shout for joy. Thank you.
I just wanted to let that play through towards the end over there so we could get a gist of how great this man was. Words to live by, folks. Whether you agree with some of what Dr. Martin Luther King said throughout his life, whether you want to pinpoint the fallacies of the man, that's up to you. That is absolutely up to you. But when I look and when I listen, for as long as I can remember, I remember my uncles listening to this man on the radio. I remember my mother and my father listening to this man and watching this man on the black and white TV, because, yeah, believe it or not, we had TVs back then. And what's so disparaging to me, and Charles, I'm gonna lean with you with this one. What's so disparaging to me is when I go to these different black spaces and I hear people saying, "Fuck Malcolm X." Fuck Dr. Martin Luther King. He was nothing but a womanizer. Just dispelling every great thing about him. Somebody had the nerve to ask me, was this man my hero? Could you think of a better one? Can you think of a better hero? Could you think of a better person, even with his faults, to model your children after? Black, white, or whatever. Could you think of a better person to say violence ain't the way? Can you think of a better way to teach your children, regardless the color of that person's skin, you are to treat them with respect and dignity? Because one day our paths will cross. We're on this road together, and you just don't see it yet. It's the greatness of this man that all weekend long, nobody wanted to speak on. I'd rather talk about Anton Daniels and Corey Holcomb and the hell that they brought to the YouTube streets. Like that's the part of that's par for the course. Next week, who will it be? Week before less, week couple weeks ago we was talking about Cardi B, not Cardi B. Well, what's the other chick? Nicki Minaj. Week before that we was talking about Snoop Dogg, Nelly. What's this new playing of what you call? Now there's a new rapper out there. Ludacris was talking about he was going on tour for MAGA until he caught enough backlash about it. He said, "Fuck it, I don't want to do it." Talking about me and him and Kid Rock as friends. When did you start being friends with Kid Rock? Candace Owens got her start by getting the NAACP to sue some folks for racial discrimination. What did she do? As soon as she got the money, she gave black folks their ass to kiss. Stephen A. Smith, look what he does. Jason Whitlock, look what he does. You got this guy that sits alongside of Abby Phillips every day, spouting racist rhetoric every fucking day on CNN. Young Turks called themselves progressive. Y'all have y'all heard some of the shit that Cenk Uygur said? Have y'all heard some of the shit that this other chick has said? You won't find that. I got to shout out the Midas Touch. I got to shout out Brian Taylor Cohen. I got to shout out Adam Mockler. What do those three men have in common? They're white. But I watch them and I listen to them and I learn from them. But some folks in the white community act like it's virtually impossible for y'all to learn from us. You're ready to dismiss this great man's work. You're ready to reduce his work down to a catchphrase. Happy MLK Day. What you gonna do today? Ain't you got some time off? Ann Coulter, I'll say this about her new pop. Even the sun shines on a dog ass. They hold it up high enough. A broken clock is right twice a day. But again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody who took the time that afternoon. You could have been anywhere listening to me or anywhere listening to them folks in the YouTube streets, hanging out all over. But you decided to come in here and chop it up with me. Whether you agreed or disagree with me, I appreciate the dialogue. I really do. Somebody might leave her and say, you know what, that guy that I was listening to early, he wasn't too far off from right. He might not have been right about everything, but he wasn't too far from wrong either. Excuse me, you know what I mean. Just food for thought. I'm not claiming to be this guy that knows all the answers, unlike some other folks. But I know one thing for sure. I've been around long enough to know that the best way to learn about anything is through experience. And I think I've been around here long enough to speak on the experience of America, not just Black America, but white America also. Am I perfect? Pure butterfly? Absolutely not. But one thing I can say is that I'm willing to listen to everybody, whether I agree with you or not. I'm not going to resort to violence. First off, I'm going to hear you out. But it's usually the other way around. When folks don't like what you're saying, they invite you to catch a flight. They point a gun at you on a live stream. They talk about your mama. They talk about your sister. If you're a Black woman, they talk up under your skirts. They come in here with the N-word with impunity. Did any of that faze me today? Notice, The trolls have left. Trolls are gone. They thought they ran into Jay Prince for president. They thought they ran into CT. What's his name? Chaotic Truth. Yeah, you right. No, sir. But anyway, folks, let me play this just one more time before I get out of here.
On bootstraps. So now when we come to Washington in this campaign, we're coming to get our check.
We're coming to get our check. And I don't mean that little $2,000 stimuli that Trump is trying to hand out. Y'all be safe. Happy MLK Day. I hope to see y'all next year at the same bat time, same bat channel. We do it all over again. If you're interested in, folks, I have a radio station that I play homage to all the greats of music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's called Classic R&B Jams. And the description is down there now. I have a listening lounge that you folks can come into and listen to there, or several other places where you can just click on and enjoy the music. Okay. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this.
Look, all you motherfuckers been snitching for him and shit. Now you standing up in here and goddamn it talking about preaching preacher. Fuck that nigga. Fuck that. I'm gonna shoot your ass too, motherfucker. Keep on. You gonna get shot too, nigga. You gonna get shot. God bless the fool, goddammit. God bless the fool. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all something. I'm gonna end this goddamn thing. Look, where's that goddamn money bowl at? Who got that money bowl? We taking that money right now before you leave this bitch. We ain't leaving out here for free, motherfucker. Yeah. Y'all know the motherfucker ain't no good. You want, look,